Hello everyone. I just launched this channel and although views are still low, and I'm here to guide you through a relaxing evening. The podcast where we listen, unwind, and fall asleep. I know many of you rely on these tales to drift off to sleep, so I've been grateful if you'd settle in and watch this video before you get too cozy. And don't forget to subscribe to my channel. I am really hoping we can reach 1,000 subscribers very soon. Your support fuels my continued efforts. I would love to hear from you. Let me know. How do you feel about this? What are your thoughts? Where you're watching from and what time it is there. Reduce your stress by focusing on self-care. Allow yourself to rest and refuel if you are fatigued. Prioritize relaxation and breaks to avoid burnout and stay healthy. I hope you enjoy the stories we share and consider supporting the channel. Thank you for listening, supporting us, and hopefully making this podcast a regular part of your nightly bedtime ritual. My name is Henry and I am your host now. Get comfortable, take a deep breath, and let the tension melt away. In the desolate backroads of rural Montana, where cell signals fade and help are hours away, a financial courier named Marcus finds himself in a desperate race against time. What begins as a routine delivery of cash turns into a nightmare when his car breaks down on an isolated stretch of highway known by locals as Whisper Road, a place where travelers have mysteriously disappeared for decades. The story follows Marcus's first-person perspective as he encounters two seemingly helpful strangers who offer assistance with his vehicle troubles. But as the sun begins to set across the vast, empty landscape, Marcus slowly realizes these men aren't the good Samaritans they appear to be. Each small interaction reveals disturbing inconsistencies in their behavior, the way they exchange knowing glances, their unusual familiarity with his situation, and their reluctance to call for help. As night approaches, Marcus discovers evidence suggesting he's not their first victim. The roadside has been their hunting ground for years, where they've perfected their routine of targeting travelers. Even more disturbing is Marcus's gradual realization that something supernatural may be at work. The men appear to have an unnatural connection to the land itself, able to predict his movements and thoughts. The horror builds as Marcus begins experiencing vivid hallucinations, visions of previous victims trying to warn him, whispers from the surrounding woods, and moments where reality itself seems to bend. Is this paranoia from stress, signs of an untreated mental condition, or is something truly otherworldly happening on this stretch of road? When Marcus finally attempts to escape, he discovers the horrifying truth. The strangers aren't the only threat. The land itself seems to conspire against him, leading him in circles back to his broken-down vehicle. Local legends speak of ancient Native American burial grounds desecrated during the highway's construction, and a curse that transforms those who die here into eternal hunters, forever trapping new victims in an endless cycle. As Marcus's sanity unravels, readers will question what's real and what's hallucination. Are the strangers human killers, or something more? Is Marcus suffering from schizophrenia, or has he genuinely stumbled upon a pocket of supernatural horror? The story weaves together psychological terror with elements of folklore, and the visceral fear of being hunted, culminating in a twist ending that will leave listeners questioning the nature of reality itself, and whether anyone truly escapes Whisper Road. I've always been good with deadlines. That's why they hired me as a financial courier. The kind of job where being late isn't an option. This particular Thursday, I had $50,000 in cash, tucked into a reinforced case, handcuffed to my wrist, destined for a client in Whitetail Creek, Montana. The drop had to happen at 2 p.m. sharp, or the deal would collapse. Take the main highway, my supervisor had warned during our morning call. Adds 40 minutes, but it's safer. I remember laughing. Tom, I grew up in these mountains. I know what I'm doing. That confidence led me to the shortcut across Blackwood County, a stretch of road that doesn't appear on most GPS systems. Locals call it Whisper Road, though I didn't know why at the time. I'd learned soon enough. The morning started bright enough. My Cadillac hummed along the empty asphalt as I sipped the gas station coffee and listened to the radio fade in and out. Reception gets spotty in the valleys between these mountains. I wasn't concerned about the silence. I welcomed it after 3 days of client meetings and corporate chatter. Just past the county line, I stopped at Earl's Diner, last outpost before 30 miles of nothing. The waitress, a weathered woman with nicotine-stained fingers, set down my eggs with a frown. "You are heading east on Route 16? She asked, eyeing my suit. "Yeah, cutting through to make good time." Her lips were tightened. "Not a good idea today." "Road work?" I asked, checking my watch. 11:17 a.m. on. Still plenty of time. Something like that. She slid a complimentary piece of pie across the table. "Take the highway instead." I thanked her for the concern but left the pie untouched. Superstitious locals had never dictated my routes before, and I had $50,000 reasons to make that deadline. As I pulled back onto the road, dark clouds gathered over the distant peaks. My radio caught a weather advisory, storm front moving in fast before dissolving into static. I switched it off and pressed the accelerator. The first drops of rain hit my windshield as my phone lost signal. The trees grew denser on either side, creating a natural tunnel that seemed to swallow the daylight. Something flickered in my rearview mirror, a shape darting between trees. But when I glanced back, nothing was there. That's when I noticed the carvings. At first, I thought they were trail markers, simple slashes in the bark. But as I drove deeper, they grew more elaborate. Spirals, primitive faces, symbols I couldn't decipher. Some looked freshly cut, the pale inner wood exposed like open wounds against the dark bark. My dashboard clock read 12:34 p.m. when I felt the steering wheel shudder. The car launched right, then left. The unmistakable flapping of a blown tire echoed through the chassis. I gripped the wheel and eased onto the narrow shoulder, cursing under my breath. As I stepped out, the rain intensified, soaking through my jacket in seconds. The forest suddenly seemed alive with whispers. Just the wind through pine needles, I told myself. I popped the trunk and reached for the spare tire. That's when I saw it. A crude symbol carved into a tree directly across from where I'd stopped. It resembled a spiral with stick figures trapped inside. Below it, something caught the dim light, a small doll made of twigs and hair hanging from a lower branch. It twisted slowly in the wind, raindrops falling from its makeshift limbs. I approached it, compelled by a curiosity I couldn't explain. Up close, I could see the hair wasn't animal fur as I'd first thought. It was human, long dark strands woven intricately through the wooden frame. A crash of thunder made me jump. Looking down at the road in both directions, I saw nothing but empty asphalt disappearing into green darkness. But I couldn't shake the feeling I was being watched, studied, from just beyond the tree line. My watch read 12:43 p.m. I still had time to make the drop if I worked quickly. I returned to the car and began changing the tire, trying to ignore how the forest had fallen unnaturally silent. No birds, no insects, just the pattern of rain and something else. A sound so faint I might have imagined it. A whisper. My name. Marcus. I dropped the lug wrench, spinning toward the trees. Nothing moved except the rain and that strange little doll, still twisting, still watching. That's when I realized I'd never told anyone on this road my name. The tire change should have been routine. I've done it dozens of times. Jack up the car, remove the lugs, swap the wheels, tighten everything down. Simple. Methodical. But nothing felt simple on Whisper Road. My hands trembled as rainwater trickled down my neck and under my collar. The forest watched me struggle, and I swear the rain intentionally targeted my eyes each time I looked up. I kept glancing at that twig doll swaying from the branch. Sometimes it seemed to be facing a different direction, though I never actually saw it move. Just hurry, I muttered to myself, voice swallowed by the storm. Fix it and get out. The spare tire was seated. All 5 lugs hand-tightened when I heard footsteps on wet gravel. Not animal. Distinctly human. I froze. Lug wrench clutched like a weapon and stared down the empty road. Empty? Then not empty. A man stood 50 yards away. Tall, rail thinner, dressed in what looked like faded work clothes. He wasn't moving, just watching me from beneath the shadow of an old baseball cap. I hadn't heard a car approach. There were no houses for miles. "Hello?" I called out, my voice cracking. He remained motionless. Then slowly he raised his hand in greeting, or warning, I couldn't tell which. When lightning flashed, illuminating the road for a split second, he was gone. My heart hammered against my ribs as I frantically tightened the lungs with the wrench. That's when I noticed the markings on my car. Freshly drawn in the condensation on my passenger window was that same spiral symbol from the tree. Inside it, tiny stick figures seemed to be running from something. I wiped it away with my sleeve, hands shaking so badly I dropped the wrench twice more. Finally, the spare was secure. I lowered the car, threw the tools into the trunk, and rushed to the driver's side. "Please start," I whispered, jamming the key into the ignition. The engine sputtered, caught, then roared to life. Relief flooded through me as I shifted into drive. That's when the engine died. I tried again. The starter whined, but nothing happened. Again and again, I turned the key, each attempt weaker than the last, until only a hollow click answered my efforts. The dashboard clock reads 1:17 p.m., less than an hour to make the drop. I pulled out my phone, already knowing what I'd find. No service. Not even a single bar. The rain drummed harder on the roof, almost mocking me. I was contemplating my next move when a knock on the window nearly launched me through the roof. 2 men stood outside my car. The tall one I'd seen before, now joined by a shorter, stockier companion with a red beard. Both wore faded flannel and mud-caked boots. Neither was wet despite the downpour. I cracked the window an inch. "Where did you come from?" "Saw you were having trouble," the shorter one said, smiling too widely. "Name's Vance. This here's Elijah. We live just a ways down the mountain." "There's no houses around here," I said. Elijah, the tall one, spoke in a smooth, unsettling tenor. "Been here generations. You just can't see our place from the road." My instinct screamed danger, but my options were limited. I checked my watch. 1:22 p.m. "Battery might be dead," Vance offered, peering at my engine through the rain. "Pop the hood?" Against my better judgment, I did. As they huddled under the raised hood, I noticed something disturbing. Despite the torrential rain, neither man had a single drop of water on his back or shoulders. It was as if the rain was intentionally avoiding them. From my position, I could see Elijah's hands moving around my engine compartment, but they weren't examining the battery. His long fingers traced invisible patterns over the machinery, his lips moving silently. "What are you doing?" I called. They both looked up simultaneously with identical expressions, blank for just a moment too long before animation returned to their features. "Battery's corroded," Vance announced cheerfully. "Got water in it from all this rain." That made no sense. The battery compartment was sealed. "You got water?" Elijah asked suddenly. "Heat like this, man needs water." I glanced at the temperature display. 52 degrees Fahrenheit. "What heat?" Before I could respond, Vance appeared at my window with a canteen. "Drink? Spring water. Very refreshing." I declined, mind racing. Neither man had been carrying a canteen before. "I need to make a call," I said. "Either of you have a phone?" They exchanged a glance I couldn't interpret. "No reception up here," Elijah said, running his tongue over his bottom lip. "Never is." "Then how do you call for help when you need it?" I asked. Vance's smile widened. revealing teeth too uniform, too white for someone living in backwoods Montana. "We don't ever need help, mister. We do just fine on our own." Something cold settled in my stomach as I realized I hadn't told them I needed help. I stayed in my car, doors locked, while Elijah and Vance circled like wolves assessing a wounded deer. They moved with an unsettling synchronicity, always maintaining the exact same distance from each other. Sometimes they'd stop and stare into the forest, nodding as if responding to voices I couldn't hear. My watch read 1:31 p.m. The deadline was slipping away, along with any hope of making it out of these woods before dark. "We can push start it," Vance suggested finally, tapping on my window. "Just need you to pop it in second gear when we get it rolling." I weighed my options. Stay here until nightfall or trust these men who'd appeared from nowhere. Neither choice felt safe. "I've got water," Elijah said, producing a battered metal canteen from his jacket, the jacket that had been empty moments before. "You look thirsty." My throat was dry, parched with fear rather than actual thirst. Still, I rolled down the window another inch. "Where exactly did you say you live?" I asked, stalling. "Didn't," Vance replied. His smile never reached his eyes, which remained fixed on the briefcase handcuffed to my wrist. "But we're locals. Know these woods our whole lives." "How long is that?" I asked. The question seemed to confuse them. They looked at each other, then back at me. "Long enough," Elijah finally answered. "Drink?" He thrust the canteen through the window gap before I could react. The metal was ice cold despite the warm hand holding it. I took it cautiously, unscrewed the cap, and sniffed. It smelled like normal water, with perhaps a faint metallic tang. My parched throat demanded relief. As I raised it to my lips, I noticed something floating inside. Small, dark particles that might have been sediment or something else. I pretended to drink while actually letting nothing pass my lips. "Good," and nodded. Vance watched me intently. "Bring water. Special properties." I nodded, handing back the canteen. "What kind of properties?" "Makes you see things," Elijah said, then quickly added, "Clearer?" "Makes you see things clearer." "No." Outside, the rain had stopped as suddenly as it had begun. The silence that followed was profound, broken only by water dripping from leaves. The forest floor steamed slightly, creating ground-level mist that swirled around the men's ankles. "Let's get this car started," Vance said, moving to the rear bumper. "You ready?" I reluctantly put the car in second gear and released the parking brake. What choice did I have? "On 3, Elijah called. 1, 2. Before he said 3, both men pushed with impossible strength. The car shot forward so violently that my head snapped back against the headrest. My foot fumbled for the clutch as the engine turned over once, twice. Nothing. The car rolled to a stop. "Again," Vance said. This time when they pushed, I swear their feet didn't touch the ground. The car lurched forward with even greater force. The engine caught, sputtered, then died again. "One more time," Elijah insisted. "It's fighting, but we'll win." Fighting? What an odd way to describe a mechanical issue. As they positioned themselves for another push, I noticed something in the rearview mirror. A small child standing at the forest's edge, maybe 30 yards behind us. A girl in what looked like an old-fashioned dress, her face unnaturally pale. She raised her hand slowly, deliberately shaking her head. "No, don't." "You shall." I blinked, and she was gone. "Ready?" Vance called. The push was so powerful this time that the wheels spun on wet leaves. The engine coughed, caught, then settled into an uneven idle that sounded nothing like its usual purr. It was running, but something was wrong. A high-pitched whine underscored the engine noise, like something screaming from inside the machinery. "There we go!" Vance appeared at my window, grinning widely. "Told you we could help." "Thank you," I said, planning my exit. "I appreciate it. I'll be." "Were you headed in such a hurry?" Elijah interrupted, his hand suddenly on the door handle. Had I not locked it? I was certain I had. "Business meeting," I replied vaguely. "Running late." With that, Vance nodded toward the briefcase. The whining from the engine intensified, now punctuated by a metallic knock. Whatever they'd done, they hadn't fixed the car. They'd wounded it somehow. "Listen," I said, forcing confidence into my voice. "I really appreciate the help, but I need to..." The engine died with a sound like a final gasp. Silence settled over us again. Not even birds call in the forest now. My watch read 1:47 p.m. on. "Looks like you're not going anywhere after all," Elijah said softly. Something in his tone made my skin crawl. "Best come with us." "I'll wait for another car," I replied. Both men laughed, a sound like dry leaves being crushed. "Nobody comes down Whisper Road on days like this," Vance said. "They know better." As if on cue, a whisper rose from the forest. My name again, but this time with urgency. "Marcus, run." The voice had been so clear, a woman's voice, desperate and afraid. Yet Elijah and Vance showed no reaction. Either they hadn't heard it, or they were pretending. "Look," I said, trying to keep my voice steady, "there must be a mechanic nearby. Or someone with a phone." "Sure thing," Vance nodded enthusiastically. "My cousin fixes cars. Lives just through those trees." He pointed to a barely visible path cutting into the forest. 10-minute walk, tops. "What's his name?" I asked. The question seemed to confuse him. "His name?" "Your cousin, the mechanic." Elijah stepped forward. "Richard. Richard is his name." Vance nodded quickly. "Right, Richard. Good old Richard." They were lying. Every instinct told me so. I needed to buy time. "Maybe you could go get him?" I suggested. "I should stay with my car." The men exchanged glances. "One of us should stay with you," Elijah said. In case someone else comes along." "I'll go," Vance volunteered too quickly. "You wait with our new friend." Before I could protest, Vance disappeared down the path. His footsteps made no sound on the wet leaves, an impossibility I noted with growing dread. So, Elijah leaned against my car too casually. "What's in the case?" "Work papers," I lied. "Nothing interesting." "Must be important papers," he observed, eyes fixed on the handcuff. "To chain them to yourself like that." I said nothing, checking my watch again. 1:53 p.m. The deadline was effectively blown. Elijah began humming, a tuneless melody that raised the hair on my arms. As he hummed, he traced patterns on my car's hood with his index finger. The same spiral symbol appeared in the condensation. "What does that mean?" I asked, nodding toward the symbol. Elijah looked surprised, as if he hadn't realized what he was drawing. "It's a trap," he said simply. "A spirit trap. Like a dream catcher." He laughed, a hollow sound. "Dream catchers let the good in, keep the bad out. This..." He traced the spiral again, "keeps everything in." Old knot formed in my stomach. "Who taught you that?" "The forest taught us," he replied, his eyes briefly unfocusing. "Long time ago. I needed to escape, but running seemed futile. These men clearly knew every inch of these woods. I decided on distraction. "I think I have a jumper cable in the trunk," I said. "Maybe we could try that instead of waiting." Elijah considered this, then nodded. "Worth a try." I popped the trunk using the lever by my seat, then cautiously stepped out of the car. The forest air hit me like a physical force, dense, wet, smelling of rot and something metallic, like old blood. As Elijah moved toward the trunk, I reached in and grabbed the lug wrench I'd used earlier. Not much of a weapon, but better than nothing. The trunk's contents were not as I'd left them. My emergency kit was open, its contents arranged in a peculiar pattern. The jumper cables were missing. Looking for these? Elijah held up the cables. Impossible, as he'd been in my line of sight the entire time. He couldn't have taken them. How did you? I began. Time works differently here, he interrupted, his voice suddenly deeper. Space too. I gripped the wrench tighter behind my back. What do you mean? Instead of answering, he looked past me into the forest. Vance is taking too long. Maybe you should go find him. I thought we were going to try jumping the car. Changed my mind, he said flatly. His eyes, when they returned to me, had lost all the pretense of humanity. They were ancient, patient, hungry. Go find Vance. I took a step backward, and I think I'll wait here. His face twisted into something almost like disappointment. They always run, he sighed. Why do they always run? I didn't waste breath asking who they were. I swung the wrench with all my strength, catching him across the temple. It should have dropped him, possibly killed him. Instead, he stumbled back a single step, touching the impact point with mild curiosity. Huh, he said, examining his fingers. No blood. That usually works for you humans, doesn't it? I ran. Not to the road. They'd expect that. Instead, I plunged into the forest on the opposite side, away from where Vance had disappeared. The underbrush tore at my suit as I crashed through, the briefcase banging painfully against my ribs. No use running, Marcus. Elijah's voice called from everywhere and nowhere. The forest brings everyone back to us. I ran until my lungs burned and forced myself to run further. The trees all looked identical, same height, same spacing, as if artificially planted. The ground began to slope upward, making each step harder than the last. Finally, gasping, I stopped behind a massive pine to catch my breath. Silence enveloped me. Not even my own pantings seemed to make sound. Then I heard it. Whispers, coming from the tree itself. I pressed my ear against the rough bark. 7 before you, a voice breathed. All trap. I jerked away, heart hammering. The whispers continued, now from every tree around me. Spiral holds us. They feed on fear. Never escape. Whether it was hallucination or supernatural reality, the voices shared one message. I was not their first victim, and escape was impossible. A twig snapped behind me. I spun to find Vance standing there, though I'd heard no approach. Found you, he said cheerfully. Ready to see Richard now? Stay back, I warned, raising the wrench again. You've wandered in circles for 20 minutes, he said, gesturing around us. And look where you ended up. I followed his gesture and felt my heart sink. Through the trees, not 30 feet away, I could see my parked car. The forest had brought me right back to where I'd started. I stood frozen, staring at my car through the trees. Impossible. I'd run for at least a mile, uphill the entire way. Yet there it was, exactly where I'd left it. Elijah lounged against the hood, examining his fingernails as if bored. Told you, Vance said, his voice tinged with amusement. Nobody leaves unless we let them. My mind scrambled for logical explanations. Identical-looking car. Some kind of hallucination? The deep woods playing tricks on my sense of direction? None seemed plausible. What do you want? I finally asked, clutching the wrench so tightly my knuckles whitened. Company, Vance replied simply. It gets lonely out here. And that, Elijah added, pointing to my briefcase without looking up. We want that too. Vance took a step closer. I backed away, deeper into the woods again. Running hadn't worked, but standing still seemed worse. I wouldn't, Vance warned. The trees get hungry around dusk. They don't discriminate between us and outsiders. As if responding to his words, the whispers from the surrounding pines intensified. Looking closer at the trunks, I noticed what I'd missed before. Faces. Dozens of them. Human features pressed against the bark from inside. Mouths frozen in silent screams. Jesus Christ, I breathed. Won't help you here, Elijah called from the car. Nothing divine has set foot on Whisper Road in a long, long time. I needed to think to find some advantage. If you want the money, take it, I offered, nodding toward the briefcase. I'll unlock the cuff. Just let me walk away. The men exchanged amused glances. It's not just about what's in the case, Vance said. Though that's a nice bonus. Then what? Elijah pushed himself out of the car and approached slowly. Did you notice you're the only one who's passed through today? Usually we get 3, maybe 4 opportunities. Opportunities? Travelers, Vance clarified. The road provides. A sickening realization dawned on me. How many? How many people do you have? Lost count, Elijah shrugged. Been doing this since 1898. The date hit me like a physical blow. That's not you can't be. Time, Vance reminded me, tapping an imaginary watch. Works differently here. Elijah was now close enough that I could see his eyes clearly. The irises had no color, just black pupils surrounded by milky whiteness. Not human eyes. What are you? I whispered. Hungry, Elijah replied. I swung the wrench again, this time aiming for Vance. He caught it one-handed, his grip supernaturally strong. With a casual twist, he bent the solid metal tool into a useless curve. Now that, he said, was just rude. Behind them, movement caught my eye. In the growing shadows near my car, a figure darted between trees, the same pale girl I'd glimpsed earlier. This time she was pointing urgently at something on the ground near my vehicle. While the men focused on me, I allowed my gaze to follow her direction. There, half buried in wet leaves, was a small mound that didn't match the forest floor. Something had been hidden there. You won't find help out here, Elijah said, misinterpreting my wandering gaze. No one passes through Whisper Road without our permission. I needed to get back to that spot to see what the girl was showing me. But first, I needed a distraction. The money, I said, raising my cuffed wrist. You want to see it? Their attention locked onto the briefcase immediately. These creatures, whatever they were, still coveted human possessions. A weakness I could exploit. Show us, Vance urged, suddenly eager. Keys in my pocket, I said, slowly reaching with my free hand. Instead of a key, I withdrew my cigarette lighter. This won't open it, I admitted, but maybe this will. I flicked the lighter and tossed it at Elijah's feet, where it landed in a puddle of what I'd thought was rainwater, but now recognized as gasoline leaking from my damaged car. The forest erupted in flame. Fire caught Elijah's pant leg, racing upward with unnatural speed. He didn't scream. Instead, his form distorted, stretching upward like melting plastic in reverse. Vance lunged for me, but recoiled from the spreading flames. I ran toward my car, toward that mysterious mound. Behind me, the fire didn't behave like natural fire. It moved with purpose, herding the creatures away from me. Reaching the spot the girl had indicated, I dropped to my knees and clawed at the wet earth. Just beneath the surface, my fingers touched something solid fabric. I pulled, unearthing a mud-caked backpack. No time to examine it now. I clutched it to my chest and sprinted for the car door, yanking it open as inhuman shrieks filled the air behind me. The key was still in the ignition. I turned it desperately. Nothing. Please, I begged the machine. Please start. From the burning woods, Elijah's voice called out, no longer human-sounding at all. We've been here for centuries. You think fire will stop us? The engine sputtered, caught, then roared to life. A healthy, normal sound. Nothing like the wounded noise from before. Whatever spell they'd cast had broken when they lost concentration. I slammed the car into gear and floored the accelerator. The tires spun, then caught, launching me forward down Whisper Road. In the rearview mirror, two elongated shapes emerged from the flames, pursuing on two long limbs. But they were falling behind. The car was faster. As I rounded a bend, the girl appeared in the road directly ahead. I swerved, nearly hitting a tree, then corrected. When I looked again, she was somehow in my passenger seat. "Don't stop until you cross the bridge," she said, her voice the same whisper I'd heard in the forest. "They can't follow beyond running water." I clutched the steering wheel with white knuckles, trying not to look at my impossible passenger. "Who are you?" "Hannah Ellis," she replied. "I died here in 1894. They've kept all of us, ever since." In the growing dusk, I could see through her to the seat beneath. "The backpack," she continued. "Look inside when you're safe." Ahead, a wooden bridge appeared, ancient but still standing. As the car's tires hit the planks, Hannah's form began to dissolve. "They'll be waiting next time," she warned, her voice fading. "They never forget a face, never cross Whisper Road again." Then she was gone, leaving only the smell of old flowers where she'd sat. I didn't slow down until I'd put 10 miles between me and that bridge. Once I felt relatively safe, though safe had become a disturbingly relative concept. I pulled into an abandoned gas station just outside Preston Falls. My hands shook so badly I could barely turn off the ignition. For several minutes, I just sat there, trying to process what had happened. The clock on my dashboard reads 3:17 p.m. My deadline had come and gone. $50,000 in cash still handcuffed to my wrist, and now I had a mud-covered backpack in my passenger seat, where a ghost had been sitting moments before. "This isn't happening," I whispered to myself. "This can't be real." But the mud under my fingernails was real. The smell of smoke in my clothes was real. And the backpack? Tangible evidence that whatever nightmare I'd stumbled into wasn't just in my head. With trembling hands, I reached for it. The once blue fabric had faded to a sickly gray, caked with dried mud and what looked disturbingly like old bloodstains. The zipper was corroded but still functional. I hesitated, then pulled it open. Inside was a leather-bound journal, a water-damaged phone, a wallet, and a small wooden box carved with that same spiral symbol. I opened the wallet first. The driver's license inside belonged to Daniel Keene, age 27, from Seattle. The issue date was October 2019, just 4 years ago. Recently, I flipped through the rest of the wallet, credit cards, a gym membership, a faded photo of a young woman. Normal items belonging to someone who'd vanished on Whisper Road. The phone was dead. It probably had been for years. I set it aside and picked up the journal. The pages were wavy from water damage, but much of the writing remained legible. I flipped to a random entry dated September 18th, 2019. Day 3 on the road. I decided to take the scenic route through Montana instead of the highway. GPS keeps glitching out on this stretch. Found this weird little side road not on any map. Locals at the diner warned me against it, but it'll save me hours. I felt a chill running through me. His experience mirrored mine almost exactly. I turned to the final entry, dated September 20. They're not human. I've been running in circles for 2 days. Every path leads back to the road. They call themselves guardians, but won't say what they're guarding. They're patient. They know I'll tire eventually. If anyone finds this, they feed on fear. That's why they toy with travelers. The more terrified you are when they take you, the more they gain. I think the forest itself is alive somehow, working with them. I'm hiding this near their hunting ground. Maybe someone will find it before they reach the next target. The girl says there's a way to fight back, but the entry stopped mid-sentence. Daniel never finished his thought, never escaped to tell his story. With growing dread, I turned my attention to the wooden box. It was small enough to fit in my palm, intricately carved with that spiral symbol surrounded by tiny figures that seemed to be both fleeing and being pulled inward simultaneously. The clasp was a simple small metal hook that swiveled to release the lid. I hesitated. Opening it felt dangerous somehow, like releasing something that should remain contained. But I needed answers. The lid creaked as I lifted it. Inside, nestled on a bed of what looked like human hair, was a small, yellow tooth. Not an adult tooth, a child. Next to it lay a folded piece of paper covered in spidery handwriting. Their power comes from the forest, but the forest's power comes from what lies beneath. Whisper Road was built over a sacred ground burial site desecrated during construction in 1891. 63 bodies, including 17 children. The first disappearance happened 1 week after completion. The Guardians were the original construction workers who discovered the site. They made a deal with what they awakened, feed it fear and live forever. They've kept their bargain for over a century. To destroy them, return what was taken. The tooth belongs to a child named Samuel Green, buried beneath the oldest oak at mile marker 16. Return it, and the binding weakens. I looked at the tiny tooth with new understanding and growing horror. These Guardians had been collecting trophies from their victims for over a century. Physical anchors to bind spirits to Whisper Road. The sound of an approaching vehicle snapped me back to the present. Headlights swept across my windshield as a police cruiser pulled into the abandoned gas station. My initial relief quickly soured as the cruiser parked at an angle, partially blocking my exit. The officer approached slowly, flashlight beam sweeping across my windshield. I lowered my window, trying to appear normal despite my mud-covered clothes, and the wild look I knew must be in my eye. "Everything all right, sir?" the officer asked, shining the light directly into my face. I couldn't see his features beyond the glare. "Yes, officer," I managed. "Just pulled over to check my map. Got a little turned around. Where are you coming from?" His voice was measured, professional. "Just passing through from Gurgaon," I replied, then immediately caught my mistake. "I mean Grayson. Coming from Grayson." The flashlight lowered slightly, revealing the officer's face. My blood turned to ice. He had Elijah's eyes. "No one comes through Whisper Road without our permission," the thing wearing a police uniform said softly. "The forest always brings them back to us." I slammed the car into the reverse, tires screaming as I backed away. The creature didn't move, didn't try to stop me. I drove without direction, putting as much distance as possible between myself and that thing in the police uniform. My mind raced faster than my car, trying to piece together the impossible reality I'd stumbled into. The roads twisted through the Montana wilderness, each turn bringing deeper darkness as the sun abandoned me to the approaching night. After nearly an hour of panicked driving, I pulled into a truck-stop diner that blazed with fluorescent light, a beacon of normalcy in this nightmare. The parking lot was half full of semis and pickup trucks. People, witnesses, safety in numbers. I tucked Daniel's backpack under my arm, still handcuffed to the briefcase, and stumbled inside. The waitress barely glanced up as I slid into a corner booth, hands shaking so badly I couldn't even open a menu. "Coffee?" she asked, already pouring before I could answer. "Thanks," I managed. Where exactly am I?" She raised an eyebrow. "Rosedale Truck Stop, Highway 43. Highway 43. At least 40 miles from Whisper Road. Not far enough." "You okay, honey?" the waitress asked, finally noticing my disheveled state. "You look like you've seen a ghost." If only she knew. "I'm fine," I lied. "I just got a little lost in the back roads." Her expression changed subtly. "Which back roads?" I hesitated, then decided the truth might get me information. "Route 16. Locals call it Whisper Road," she finished, her voice dropping to match the name. Jesus, no wonder you look like death warmed over. She slid into the seat across from me, coffee pot forgotten on the table. My grandfather was a sheriff around these parts in the 70s. Said more people went missing on that stretch than anywhere else in 3 counties. They'd find vehicles abandoned, sometimes still running. Never find the drivers. I saw them, I said, the words escaping before I could stop them. The Guardians. The waitress's face drained of color. You shouldn't say that name out loud, she whispered, glancing around the diner. People around here, we don't talk about them. Bad luck. But you know what they are, I pressed. Stories, she said firmly. Just stories to keep kids from wandering too far into the woods. But her eyes told a different story, she believed. I need to know everything, I said, leaning forward. Please, they're after me now. She hesitated, then nodded toward a table by the window where an elderly man sat alone, staring into a coffee cup. Talk to old Pete. If anyone knows more, it's him. He used to be the county historian before. She trailed off. Well, before the accident. I approached the old man cautiously, sliding into the seat across from him. His weathered face remained focused on his coffee, as if reading fortunes in the dark liquid. Excuse me, I began. I was told you might know something about Whisper Road. Pete didn't look up, but his body tensed visibly. Who wants to know? Someone who just escaped from there. Barely. That got his attention. Roomy eyes lifted to study me, widening slightly at whatever they saw in my face. They let you go, he stated flatly. Nobody escapes. They let you go, which means they're playing a longer game with you. Cold dread settled in my stomach. What do you mean? Pete glanced around, then leaned forward. Been studying them for 40 years. Lost my daughter to that road in '83. They're collectors, you see. Not just of bodies, but of souls. Fear is just the seasoning. What they really want is to add to their collection. The spirits trapped in the trees, I murmured, remembering the faces pressed against bark. Pete nodded. But sometimes, they let one go, a runner. Someone to spread the story, to lure more curious souls to their hunting ground. I'm not telling anyone to go there, I protested. Don't have to, Pete said. The mark is already on you. Others like them will sense it. You'll draw attention wherever you go. As if on cue, a trucker at the counter turned to stare at me. His eyes, just for a moment, flashed milk white. What's happening to me? I whispered. Pete reached across the table, grabbing my arm with surprising strength. He pushed up my sleeve, revealing a spiral pattern on my skin. The same symbol from the trees, now somehow branded into my flesh. I hadn't noticed it before. Hadn't felt it happen. When did they touch you? Pete demanded. They didn't, I insisted, then remembered. The water. Elijah offered me water from the canteen. I pretended to drink it, but some must have touched your lips, Pete concluded. That's enough. The mark is faint, but it's there. A whisper brushed against my ear. Hannah's voice again. The binding goes both ways, she breathed, though I couldn't see her. What marks you also connects you. The diner lights flickered. At the counter, the trucker stood, still staring in my direction. You need to leave, Pete hissed urgently. Now. But how do I stop them? The journal mentioned returning what was taken. The talismans, Pete nodded. 63 original bodies, 63 talismans. Find them, return them, and the binding breaks. But they'll never let you get close enough to. The lights went out completely. In the darkness, a collective gasp rose from the diner patrons. When emergency lights kicked on seconds later, the trucker was standing directly beside our table. Found you, he said in Vance's voice. I bolted for the door, clutching Daniel's backpack. Behind me, chaos erupted, screams breaking glass. I didn't look back until I reached my car. Through the diner windows, silhouettes moved in impossible ways, stretching and contorting as if no longer bound by human form. As I fumbled with my keys, Hannah appeared in the passenger seat again. "Mile marker 16th, she said urgently. "The oldest oak. You have one of the talismans now." "They'll be waiting for me," I argued, starting the engine. "Yes," she agreed simply. "But now you know what they are. Knowledge is power." "What are they exactly?" I asked, peeling out of the parking lot. Hannah's ghostly form flickered like a bad transmission. "They were human ones. Construction workers who disturbed an ancient burial ground. The entity they awakened offered them immortality in exchange for feeding it. Fear is its sustenance. And you?" "The others trapped in the trees." "Batteries," she said bitterly. "We fuel their immortality. Our fear sustains them, even after death." In my rearview mirror, the diner's lights extinguished one by one, plunging the truck stop into darkness. Something large moved across the parking lot, no longer pretending to be human. I pressed the accelerator to the floor. "How do I fight them?" Hannah's voice was fading, her form becoming more transparent. "They feed on fear, so don't give them any." Then she was gone, leaving me alone with an impossible task. Return to the place of my nightmare, face monsters that had been hunting humans for over a century, and somehow, against all odds, not be afraid. As I drove toward mile marker 16, I realized the whispers hadn't stopped when Hannah disappeared. They were getting louder, dozens of voices speaking simultaneously. "Help us. Free us. Beware the spiral." And beneath it all, my own voice whispering back, "I'm afraid. I'm so afraid." The voices in my head multiplied as I drove toward Whisper Road. Some begged for help, others warned me away, and a few, the most disturbing, seemed to be enjoying my fear. I couldn't distinguish which were victims and which were guardians. Maybe after a century trapped together, the line had blurred. I needed to focus, to formulate a plan beyond simply returning the tooth to mile marker 16. Pete had mentioned 63 talismans, one for each desecrated grave. The tooth was just one. What about the others? And how could I possibly find them all? The rational part of my brain, still denying everything I'd experienced, suggested calling the police. But after seeing Elijah's eyes on that officer's face, I couldn't trust any authority. This was my burden now. As the miles disappeared beneath my tires, I forced myself to think logically about what I knew. The Guardians fed on fear. They deliberately terrified their victims before taking them. They were somehow bound to Whisper Road, unable to cross running water. They collected talismans from their victims, binding their spirits to the forest. Returning these talismans might weaken or break the binding. But one crucial question remained. If returning talismans weakened them, why would Hannah lead me back? Why would she help me discover this vulnerability unless it was a trap? I pulled over, heart racing. What if Hannah wasn't helping me at all? What if she was herding me back to Whisper Road, like a sheep to slaughter? What if the Guardians had orchestrated everything? The backpack, the journal, even the ghostly guide, to ensure my return? No, I said aloud, trying to quiet my paranoia. That doesn't make sense. They already had me. Why let me escape at all? A truck roared past, momentarily illuminating my car. In that flash of light, I saw something written in the condensation on my passenger window. Words that hadn't been there seconds before. Trust no one. Not even us. I stared at the message as it slowly dripped down the glass. Had Hannah written it? One of the other spirits? Or was my mind finally fracturing under the strain? Regardless, I couldn't turn back now. I checked my watch. 5:42 p.m. Sunset would come soon, and facing these creatures in darkness seemed unwise. I needed to reach mile marker 16 before dusk faded completely. The junction to Whisper Road appeared ahead, unmarked, except for a weathered wooden post. No official signage warned travelers away, just an overwhelming sense of wrongness that made me hesitate before turning. The moment my tires touched Whisper Road, the whispers intensified. You came back. Foolish. Brave. Dead. I gripped the steering wheel tighter and pressed on. The forest seemed to lean toward the road, trees bending at unnatural angles as if trying to touch my car as I passed. The air grew thick, difficult to breathe. Mile markers appeared every so often, wooden posts carved with numbers. 10. 12. And another. 14. The forest grew denser with each passing mile, the canopy overhead blocking what remained of daylight. Just past mile marker 15th, I noticed something odd. The trees had changed. Not their species or size, but their arrangement. They now formed perfect geometric patterns, too perfect for natural growth. Triangles, squares, and at the center of each formation, that damned spiral. I slowed as mile marker 16 came into view. Just beyond it stood an ancient oak, massive and twisted, its trunk wide enough that 5 people holding hands could not encircle it. Even without Hannah's guidance, I would have known this tree was special. It emanated a palpable malevolence. No sign of the guardians yet, but they knew I was here. The forest had surely told them. I parked and sat motionless, gathering my courage. In my pocket, the small tooth seemed to pulse with energy. The task was simple. Dig at the base of the tree, find Samuel Green's grave, return his tooth. Simple, yet terrifying. As I stepped from the car, the forest fell silent. No birds, no insects, not even wind through the leaves. Just absolute stillness, like the world holding its breath. At the base of the oak, the ground was bare and hard-packed. No grass, no underbrush, nothing lived in the tree's shadow. I knelt and removed a small folding shovel from Daniel's backpack. The first strike against the soil felt like a violation. "I'm sorry," I whispered, unsure who I was apologizing to. Samuel, Hannah, or myself were returning to this place. The soil gave way easily, too easily. Instead of hard-packed earth, it had the consistency of fresh potting soil, as if recently disturbed. 6 inches down, my shovel struck something solid. Brushing away dirt revealed a small wooden box, almost identical to the one that had held the tooth, but older. Its carvings were more weathered. This was too easy. The guardians were letting me do this. Why? The box opened with a soft click. Inside, nestled on the same bed of hair, was an empty impression where a tooth should have rested. I touched the space gently, then placed Samuel's tooth in the depression. "It fits perfectly." "I return what was taken," I said formally, remembering Pete's words. "Release what is bound." The effect was immediate and terrifying. The ground beneath me began to tremble. The ancient oak shuddered, its bark splitting to reveal not wood but writhing faces. Dozens of them, pressed against a membrane that separated our world from somewhere else. Voices erupted from the cracks, no longer whispers, but screams of agony and relief intermingled. One voice rose above the others, a child. One down, 62 to go. Before I could process this, a hand burst from the soil beside me. Skeletal yet somehow still fleshed, fingers grasping at air. I scrambled backward as more erupted around the tree's base, not attacking me, but reaching upward as if struggling to climb out of graves too shallow to contain them. "What have you done?" Elijah's voice came from behind me. I spun to find him standing at the edge of the clearing, no longer bothering with his human disguise. His form shifted constantly, tall and gaunt one moment, broad and hulking the next, but always wrong like a child's drawing of a person made flesh. "Greed one?" I said, backing toward my car. Samuel Green. Temporary, Elijah hissed. The binding can be remade. Fresh fear, fresh talisman. Vance emerged from the opposite side of the clearing, his form equally distorted. You should have kept running, Marcus. Now you're just another battery for the collection. I reached into my pocket and clutched the wooden box that had held the tooth. You need fear, I said, forcing my voice to remain steady. What happens when someone isn't afraid? Elijah's form flickered like a bad reception. Everyone fears something. We've had centuries to learn what makes humans break. You've had centuries to practice on those who don't know what you are, I countered. I do, and knowledge is power. I wasn't sure where the confidence in my voice was coming from. Inside, terror clawed at my chest, threatening to consume me. But something had changed when I returned Samuel's tooth. A connection had formed between me and the trapped spirits, feeding me strength. Vance moved closer, his movements jerky and unnatural. Let's test your theory, he snarled. Let's see what Marcus Hudson fears most. The forest around us began to shift and change. Trees melted and reformed into new shapes, familiar ones. My childhood home, the office building where I'd failed my first major assignment, the hospital room where I'd watched my mother die. Impressive trick, I said, though my voice wavered. But memories can't hurt me. Memories? Elijah laughed, a sound like grinding metal. No, Marcus, these aren't memories. From the twisted version of my childhood home emerged a figure I knew instantly. My father, exactly as he'd looked at the night he'd abandoned us, suitcase in hand. You weren't enough to make me stay, he said, his voice exactly as I remembered. Never enough. My former boss emerged from the office building. Failure, always cutting corners. That's why we let you go. And from the hospital room, most devastating of all, my mother, pale and withered as she'd been in her final days. You weren't there, she whispered. I died alone because you were late. The guilt and shame I'd carried for years bubbled to the surface. These were my deepest fears, not monsters or violence, but the conviction that I'd failed everyone who ever mattered to me. I sank to my knees as the figures closed in, their accusations growing louder. The Guardians watched from the periphery, their forms growing more solid, more powerful as my fear intensified. This was how they'd survived for centuries, finding each victim's personal hell and using it to generate the purest fear. You're going to miss this deadline too, my boss taunted. Just like you miss saying goodbye to your mother. Something clicked in my mind. The deadline. The money. The client is waiting in Whitetail Creek. None of that mattered now, yet it had seemed so important just hours ago. A strange calm settled over me. You're right, I said to the apparition. I failed all of you. I've spent my life running from deadline to deadline, cutting corners, taking shortcuts like Whisper Road, always afraid of failing. I stood slowly, facing each specter in turn. But I'm not afraid anymore. The figures flickered uncertainly. Behind them, the Guardians hissed. You're lying, Vance spat. We can smell your fear. I'm terrified, I admitted. But not of them, not of you. I'm afraid of what happens if I don't stop you. How many more travelers you'll trap? How many more spirits will end up pressed into trees? I stepped forward, through the apparition of my mother. It dissolved like smoke. That fear doesn't feed you. It feeds me. With each step I took, the conjured memories faded. The Guardians retreated, their forms growing less substantial. Impossible, Elijah snarled. No one resists. I'm not the first, I replied, remembering Hannah's words. And I won't be the last. I reached for my car and opened the door. The Guardians made no move to stop me. They couldn't. Without my fear of sustaining them, they were weakening. This isn't over, Vance called as I started the engine. The others will never be found. The binding will hold. I looked at him through the window. I've found one. Others will find more. Eventually, you'll be nothing but a bad memory. As I drove away, the whispers resumed, but different now. Hopeful, encouraging, and among them Hannah's voice, clear and strong. 62 to go, will help you find them. I didn't know how long it would take or where the search would lead me, but for the first time since I'd turned onto Whisper Road, I wasn't afraid of missing a deadline. I had a new purpose now, one worth being late for. 3 weeks have passed since my escape from Whisper Road. 3 weeks of research, planning, and nightmares where I ran through endless forests while whispers called my name. The deadline with my client was long blown. My courier job terminated after I failed to deliver the money. I'd managed to return the briefcase through a third party my resignation letter attached. They probably thought I'd stole the cash, disappeared. Let them think about it. The mark on my arm had neither faded nor spread, a constant reminder of unfinished business. I'd converted my small apartment into what looked like a conspiracy theorist's workshop. Maps of Montana covering the walls, red strings connecting missing persons reports to locations along Whisper Road, newspaper clippings dating back to the 1890s. 62 talismans remained, 62 souls trapped. I had found 3 more since Samuel Green's tooth, a wedding ring, a pocket watch, and a child's marble, each hidden near unmarked graves throughout Blackwood County. Each return had weakened the Guardian's hold, freeing individual spirits but barely denting their overall power. At this rate, it would take years to free them all. Years I might not have. The whispers in my head had grown more insistent. Sometimes when I looked in the mirror, my reflection moved differently, as if something else shared my skin. The Guardians couldn't cross running water to pursue me, but their influence stretched beyond physical boundaries. I needed to accelerate my efforts, force a confrontation on my terms, which is why I now sat in a seedy motel room in Preston Falls, loading rock salt into shotgun shells, while an old priest watched nervously from the corner. This isn't sanctioned by the church, Father Thomas reminded me for the 3rd time. If anyone asks, I gave you general spiritual guidance, nothing more. No one's going to ask, I replied, measuring the salt carefully. And if they do, I'll be beyond caring. Thomas frowned. He was in his 70s, with a face like cracked leather and eyes that had seen too much to dismiss my story outright. When I'd sought him out at the small parish church near Whisper Road, he'd listened without interruption, then opened a locked drawer in his desk and handed me a journal nearly identical to Daniel's. You're not the first to sit in that chair, he'd said simply. His predecessor, it turned out, had been documenting disappearances along Whisper Road since the 1950s. The church had investigated briefly in the 70s, then buried the reports when 2 priests vanished during the inquiry. Salt alone won't stop them, Thomas said now, watching me work. They're not demons in the biblical sense. No, I agreed. But they are bound to the land. Consecrated salt disrupts that connection temporarily. And the other items? I glanced at my duffel bag packed for spiritual warfare. Sage bundles, blessed water, iron filings, ultraviolet flashlights, and several small mirrors. Most came from Thomas's private collection, some from less reputable sources in nearby towns. Whether any would actually work remained to be seen. Covering all bases, I said. Different cultures have different methods for dealing with land-bound spirit. Thomas picked up one of my maps, studying the locations I'd marked. You're missing the pattern, he observed. What pattern? He traced a fingertip between the sites where I'd found talismans. These aren't random burial spots. They form a spiral, starting from the ancient oak at mile marker 16 and moving outward. I stared at the map with new understanding. The same spiral symbol they carve everywhere. It's a binding circle, Thomas explained. Each talisman forms a point in the pattern, strengthening the overall spell. Return them in the wrong order, and you might actually reinforce the binding rather than breaking. My stomach dropped, which is exactly what they want me to do. They've been letting me find certain talismans, guiding me to strengthen their power rather than diminish it. Possibly, Thomas conceded. These entities think in centuries, not moments. Everything is a long game to them. I studied the spiral pattern. If Thomas was right, I needed to work from the outside in, unraveling their spell methodically rather than randomly returning whichever talismans I happened to find. The outermost point would be. I traced the spiral to its logical conclusion. Here, Thomas tapped the map. Anderson Creek Bridge, the farthest reach of their territory. I remembered Hannah's words. They can't follow beyond running water. The bridge marked their boundary. What would be buried there? I wondered. Not what, Thomas said grimly. Who? The binding requires a guardian at each point. I suspect someone is buried at that bridge. The first victim used to establish the boundary. The pieces clicked together. Hannah Ellis, I whispered. She died in 1894, right after the road was completed. Find her grave, return her talisman, and you break the outermost point of the binding, Thomas confirmed. Work your way inward from there. I checked my watch. Sunset in 3 hours. Enough time to reach Anderson Creek Bridge before dark if I left immediately. You're not coming? I asked, noticing Thomas hadn't moved. He shook his head sadly. My faith is strong, but my body is weak. This is your battle now. What if I fail? Then someone else will continue, he said simply. No evil lasts forever. I finished packing my supplies, then paused at the door. The church may have given up on Whisper Road, Father, but you didn't. Why? Thomas's weathered face softened. My sister disappeared there in 1962. I've been fighting this battle longer than you've been alive. I nodded, understanding the weight of his words. I'll free her if I can. She's already free, he replied. I returned her locket in 1975. She's been helping others ever since. The voices in my head, I realized. One of them is your sister. Marie, he confirmed. Listen to her. She'll guide you when I cannot. With that blessing, I left for Anderson Creek Bridge, driving through the Montana afternoon with renewed purpose. The whispers accompanied me, a constant chorus that I was gradually learning to interpret. Some voices wished me success, others hoped for my failure, and a few, the guardians themselves, promised endless torment for my interference. I turned up the radio to drown them out, but between stations, a single voice cut through the static. They're waiting for you, Marcus. They've always been waiting. The voice was Hannah's, yet not Hannah's, subtly wrong in ways I couldn't articulate. Another trap, another manipulation. I know, I said aloud. Tell them I'm counting on it. For this confrontation, fear would be my ally, not my enemy. I would use their hunger against them, like baiting a trap with poisoned meat. Anderson Creek Bridge appeared ahead, a simple wooden structure spanning a fast-moving stream. I parked on the near side and gathered my supplies, hands steady now. The mark on my arm pulsed rhythmically, sensing proximity to its source. As I approached the bridge on foot, a figure materialized at its center, Hannah, as I'd seen her before, in her old-fashioned dress. But something was different about her appearance. Her form was more solid, less spectral. Too solid. You've come to free me, she said, her voice carrying unnaturally over the rushing water. I stopped at the bridge's edge. You're not Hannah. The figure's face twisted into a smile too wide for human lips. Clever boy. Hannah is indisposed, but I can take you to her talisman. I think I can find it myself, I replied, stepping onto the bridge. The boards creaked beneath my weight. The false Hannah remained at the center, watching me advance with predatory stillness. She's buried beneath the north support, the creature said. Her locket is there. I stopped, maintaining distance. Why would you tell me that? Perhaps I've grown tired of this existence. Perhaps I wish to be free as well. Or perhaps you're lying, I countered, drawing me into another trap. The false Hannah tilted her head at an impossible angle. How little trust you have, after everything we've been through together. I set down my duffel bag and removed a small spray bottle filled with blessed water. If you're really on my side, you won't mind a little test. Before the creature could respond, I sprayed an arc of water between us. The droplets hissed and steamed where they struck the wooden planks, burning small holes through the weathered boards. The false Hannah's form flickered, revealing something ancient and inhuman beneath the illusion. All angles and darkness, like a sketch of a predator drawn by someone who'd only heard them described. You've learned some tricks, it hissed, all pretense abandoned. I've had good teachers, I replied, continuing to spray until a barrier of blessed water separated us completely. The creature snarled, its form shifting between Hannah's appearance and something too terrible to comprehend fully. The others are coming. You can't fight us all. I'm counting on that too, I said, removing a small mirror from my pocket. I placed it on the bridge facing the creature, then backed away toward my original side. Behind me, voices called from the forest, familiar voices. Elijah and Vance had arrived, along with others I hadn't met yet. The Guardians were gathering. Instead of retreating, I knelt at the edge of the bridge and began digging beneath the northern support. The soil gave way easily, just as it had at the ancient oak. 6 inches down, my fingers brushed metal, a heart-shaped locket on a delicate chain. No, the false Hannah screeched. That's mine. I stood holding the locket. It was never yours. It was Hannah's. And now I'm returning it. The creature lunged forward but recoiled from the blessed water barrier, hissing in pain and rage. Behind me, footsteps approached, multiple sets, moving with unnatural synchronicity. The Guardians had reached the bridge. Nowhere to run now, Marcus, Elijah's voice called. The water may stop us, but you're trapped between. I turned to face them. 7 figures stood at the bridge entrance, each human-shaped but subtly wrong, like poorly made copies. Elijah and Vance, I recognized. The others were new, or perhaps very old, their human guises worn thin by centuries of existence. Who said anything about running? I replied, opening the locket to reveal an empty space where a picture had once been. In my research, I discovered Hannah's story. The first victim, a young woman traveling to meet her fiancé, captured by the newly transformed Guardians as she crossed Anderson Creek. They'd kept her portrait as a talisman, binding her spirit to Whisper Road for over a century. I removed a small daguerreotype from my pocket, a copy I'd found in county records of Hannah Ellis and her intended husband. With ceremonial slowness, I placed it back in the locket. I return what was taken, I intoned. Release what is bound. The reaction was instantaneous and violent. The bridge shuddered beneath my feet. The false Hannah shrieked, a sound no human throat could produce. The water in the creek below began to churn and rise. What have you done? One of the unfamiliar Guardians demanded, voice thick with fear. I smiled grimly. Freed the cornerstone. The locket in my hand grew scorching hot, forcing me to drop it. Instead of falling to the bridge, it hovered in midair, spinning faster and faster until it was a golden blur. Light erupted from it, blinding, purifying light that caused the Guardians to shield their eyes and retreat. From this light, Hannah emerged, her true form, not the pale imitation the Guardians had created. She was radiant, powerful, no longer a frightened victim but a force of vengeance. 131 years, she said, her voice resonating with otherworldly power. 131 years I've waited for this moment. The false Hannah disintegrated, collapsing into ash that the wind carried away. The barrier of blessed water ignited, creating a wall of blue flame across the bridge. Run, I told the Guardians, while you still can. They didn't run, whether from confidence or inability, I couldn't tell. Instead, they linked hands, forming a semicircle at the bridge entrance. Their voices joined in an ancient chant that made my ears bleed and vision blur. "They're reinforcing the binding," Hannah warned, "using their combined power to reshape it without me." "Can they do that?" "Not for long," she replied, "but long enough to capture you if you stay." I glanced at my duffel bag, still sitting between me and the Guardians. All my carefully prepared weapons, useless now. "What about the others?" I asked. "The 61 souls still trapped?" Hannah's form began to fade as the Guardian's chant intensified. "Find Marie Thomas. She knows where the next talisman lies. Work the spiral inward." "I can't leave them," I protested. "You must," Hannah insisted. "Live to fight another day." With her remaining strength, she pushed me backward, off the bridge and into the creek below. The icy water shocked my system as I plunged beneath the surface. The current caught me immediately, carrying me downstream and away from Whisper Road. The last thing I saw before the water took me was Hannah, standing defiant against the 7 Guardians, buying me time to escape with her final act of resistance. 1 freed, 61 to go, and the Guardians, now aware of my true intentions, would be watching every move. 6 months have passed. Winter claimed Montana, then reluctantly released it to spring's tender mercies. I spent those months hunting talismans, following Marie Thomas's whispered guidance through dreams and intuition. 11 more freed, working the spiral inward as Hannah had instructed. 50 more remained. The Guardians fought back with increasing desperation. Twice they nearly caught me, once in an abandoned mine shaft where a prospector's golden tooth had been hidden, again near a forgotten cemetery where a child's christening bracelet lay buried. Each encounter left new scars, both physical and spiritual. The mark on my arm had spread despite my efforts, tendrils of the spiral pattern now reaching my shoulder and crawling toward my heart. Father Thomas said it was the Guardian's attempt to claim me remotely, to make me one of them without physical contact. The process was slow, but relentless. Perhaps a year before the transformation became irreversible, which is why I now found myself parking outside Earl's Diner, the same establishment where my nightmare had begun half a year earlier. The same weathered waitress looked up as I entered, recognition dawning slowly on her face. "You're alive?" she said simply, pouring coffee without being asked. "Barely," I replied, sliding onto a stool at the counter. "Need information." She glanced around the empty diner, then leaned close. "About them?" I nodded. "Not here," she whispered. "My shift ends in 20 minutes. Meet me out back." This is a haunting psychological horror story that follows Thomas Blackwood, a reclusive chef in rural Scotland, whose grip on reality begins to unravel after the mysterious death of his wife, Eleanor. What begins as grief spirals into a terrifying journey through Thomas's fractured psyche as he struggles to distinguish between reality and delusion. I will use the initial AT as a shorthand reference for the character Thomas Blackwood. Why? The story weaves together elements of Scottish folklore regarding malevolent spirits that can possess everyday objects, particularly focusing on Thomas's prized cooking knife that has been passed down through generations of his family. As his mental state deteriorates, Thomas becomes convinced that the knife harbors the spirit of an ancient entity that influenced him to harm Eleanor. The narrative carefully builds tension as Thomas's schizophrenia manifests through auditory hallucinations, whispers that seem to emanate from the kitchen utensils, particularly his knife. These whispers gradually become more demanding, urging him to perform disturbing rituals involving food preparation that blur the line between cooking and something far more sinister. Thomas's isolated cottage becomes increasingly claustrophobic as he attempts to dispose of evidence he believes will incriminate him, all while battling the persistent voice that might be his own psychosis, or perhaps something supernatural. The cottage itself becomes a character, with creaking floorboards and drafty corridors that seem to respond to Thomas's deteriorating mental state. As the story progresses, we learn of Thomas's troubled relationship with his father, a stern butcher who subjected him to psychological abuse centered around food preparation rituals. The story explores how trauma can manifest as psychosis, but leaves open the possibility that genuine supernatural forces might be at play through the local legends of the Carver, a malevolent entity said to possess tools used for cutting and carving. The narrative builds to a shocking revelation when Thomas discovers writings in Eleanor's journal, suggesting she had been slowly poisoning him, believing he was possessed by an evil spirit. This discovery forces Thomas to question everything. Did he actually harm Eleanor? Or did she attempt to harm him first? Was she trying to save him or destroy him? The boundaries between victim and perpetrator blur as Thomas confronts the possibility that they were both manipulated by forces beyond their understanding, or by the more terrifying prospect that mental illness had affected them both in different ways. The story culminates in a chilling climax as Thomas prepares a final meal that he believes will exorcise the evil from his home once and for all. But the ambiguous ending leaves listeners wondering if he's achieved redemption or descended completely into madness. I've always found peace in cooking. The methodical chopping, the sizzle when onions hit hot oil, the way aromas build and transform. But not today. Today my kitchen feels wrong. My hands won't stop shaking as I grip the wooden handle of my knife. The blade catches the dim Scottish sunlight filtering through the cottage windows. Outside, the highlands stretch endlessly, isolating me from the nearest neighbor by 2 miles of heather and stone. I've never minded solitude before. Now it feels like a prison. Focus, Thomas, I whisper to myself. Just make dinner. I'm not sure how long Eleanor is gone. 2 days? 3? The calendar on the wall says it's Tuesday, but that can't be right. Tuesday was when we argued about what? My memory feels like it's been stirred with the same spoon I'm using for the sauce bubbling on the stove. The knife feels unusually heavy today. It's been in my family for generations. Carbon steel with a worn wooden handle, passed from father to son, with solemn ceremony. As I bring it down on an onion, I swear I hear a sound like a satisfied sigh. Did you say something? I call out, then immediately feel foolish. There's no one here. Eleanor isn't here to answer. The cottage creaks around me, old timber shifting in the wind that howls across the moor. But beneath that familiar sound is something else low, persistent whisper just at the edge of hearing. I've been noticing it more since Eleanor disappeared. Not disappeared, I correct myself. Left. She left after our fight. That must be it. Then why is her coat still hanging by the door? Why are her pills still in the bathroom cabinet? The onions are burning. I've been standing motionless, knife in hand. How long? Minutes. The acrid smell fills the kitchen, stinging my eyes. Or am I crying? Hard to tell anymore. I scrape the blackened mess into the bin and start again. Routine will save me. Routine always has. As I slice into a fresh onion, my reflection catches in the polished blade. For a second, I don't recognize myself, hollow-eyed, unshaven, a stranger's face staring back with an expression I can't name. Fear? Guilt? Hunger? Something dark slides across the surface of the sauce I'm stirring. When I blink, it's gone. It wasn't supposed to be like this, I say to the empty kitchen. I didn't mean for any of this to happen. The clock on the wall ticks loudly, marking time in a world that suddenly makes no sense. And beneath its steady rhythm, I swear I hear a voice whisper back. But it happened all the same, Thomas, and now we must feed. I drop the spoon. It clatters against the floor, splattering red sauce across the tiles like blood. Like blood. Why did I think that? Outside, dusk is falling fast across the moor. Another day ending, and I can't account for the hours. My mind feels foggy, pieces missing, thoughts scattered like ingredients waiting to be combined into something cohesive. I look down at my hands. There's a bandage on my left palm I don't remember applying. When I peel it back, a thin, precise cut runs across my skin. The kind of cut is a very sharp knife. "Eleanor?" I call out, my voice echoing through the empty cottage. "Are you home?" I know she isn't. I know she can't answer. And worst of all, I'm starting to remember why. A knife is more than a tool, Thomas. It's a vessel. My father's words echo in my mind as I sit at the kitchen table, rolling the blade between my fingers. The memory is 25 years old, but vivid enough to taste. The metallic tang of blood from the butcher shop, the wool smell of father's sweater, the ever-present Scottish drizzle tapping against the windows. I was 12 when he placed this knife in my hands. Not a child's gift. No, Duncan Blackwood didn't believe in coddling. It was a legacy, passed by his father and his father before him. The Blackwoods have always been men who understood the art of cutting, he said, eyes intense beneath bushy brows. Butchers, surgeons, chefs, we know that to create, something must first be taken apart. I remember how the handle felt too large for my boy's hand, the weight of it unfamiliar and thrilling. Father watched me hold it, his expression unreadable. There's power in this blade, boy. The steel remembers every cut it makes. He leaned close then, his voice dropping to a whisper. Some say the Carver lives in blades like these, the old ones, the hungry one. I laughed nervously. The Carver? Like a boogeyman? His hand struck my face so fast I didn't see it coming. Not hard enough to bruise. Father never left marks where people could see, but enough to silence me. This isn't a joke, Thomas. The Highlands are old. Magic still lives in the stones and steel here. The Carver is what the villagers called it. An entity that possesses tools meant for cutting, makes men do terrible things. Your grandfather knew it. That's why he taught me the rituals. The rituals. I close my eyes now, remembering them all. How Father would cleanse the blade after each use, whispering words in Gaelic I never fully understood. How he insisted the knife be stored blade up, never pointing toward a sleeping person. How he'd place a drop of his own blood on the steel on the solstice. I thought they were superstitions, the eccentric habits of a man who spent too much time alone with dead animals and whiskey. Until the night I found him in the shop, the knife buried in his own thigh, his eyes wide with terror. "It's hungry tonight," he'd gasped as I rushed to help him. Had defeated something. Better me than you or your mother. We never spoke of it again. The incident was blamed on an accidental slip while preparing dinner. Mother believed it, or pretended to. 6 months later, Father was dead. Heart attack, the doctor said. I inherited the butcher shop, the cottage, and the knife. The first night I used it after his death, I cut myself exactly as he had. A clean slice across my palm that barely hurt until I saw the blood welling up. An accident, I told myself. Just like I've been telling myself for 20 years. You were right, Father, I whispered to the empty kitchen. It does remember every cut. I run my finger along the edge, feeling its impossible sharpness. I've never needed to sharpen it. Not once in all these years. Outside, the wind has picked up, moaning around the eaves like a woman in pain. Like Eleanor in her final moments. The knife seems to pulse in my hand, warm despite the chill in the room. For a moment, I swear I see something moving beneath the surface of the steel. Shadows swirling like smoke under ice. And then the voice comes again, so close it could be my own thought. Tell me about her, Thomas. Tell me how she tasted fear. My phone buzzes, breaking the spell. A text message from Ian, the village shopkeeper. Missing your usual order this week. Everything all right up there, mate? People asking after Eleanor. I stare at the screen until it goes dark, the knife heavy in my other hand. People asking questions. People noticing patterns disrupted. I need to be more careful. I need to maintain appearances. I need to feed it before it feeds on me. Morning arrives like a thief, stealing away the comfort of unconsciousness. I find myself on the kitchen floor, curled against the cabinets, the knife beside me. My mouth tastes like copper and regret. Just a bad dream, I mutter, but the words ring hollow in the silent cottage. I make coffee mechanically, each motion practiced over years of routine. The familiar ritual should be soothing, but today even this simple act feels charged with wrongness. The water boils too quickly. The ground smells faintly rotten. As I reach for a mug, Eleanor's favorite, the blue ceramic one with the chip on the handle. I hear it. A whisper, soft as steam. She never liked how you made her coffee. Too bitter, like you became. I spin around, heart hammering. The kitchen is empty, morning sunlight painting rectangles on the worn wooden floor. Who's there? My voice sounds strange to my own ears, high and tight. No answer but the distant cry of a raven outside. I press my palms against my eyes. Sleep deprivation. That's all this is. I haven't slept properly since Eleanor, since you silenced her, comes the whisper again. And this time I can pinpoint its source. The knife lies on the cutting board where I'd left it last night. Innocent. Inanimate. Impossible. Yet I hear it speak. I'm losing my mind, I say aloud. Naming fear should diminish it. That's what Dr. Morris told me years ago when the anxiety attacks began. Name the monster and it shrinks. But this monster only laughs sound like metal scraping metal. Your mind has been lost for years, Thomas. Why else would you have been seeing that psychiatrist? The one Eleanor called behind your back. How could it know that? I never told anyone about discovering those appointments in her planner. Our fight about her betrayal. Her insistence that I needed help. With trembling hands, I reach for the knife. The moment my fingers touch the handle, a jolt runs through me. Not electricity, but something worse. A connection. Memories flood my consciousness, but they're fragmented, distorted. Eleanor's face contorted in fear. The sound of something heavy hitting the floor. The smell of copper and salt. No, I gasp, dropping the knife. It clatters against the cutting board with an almost musical ring. Yes, it whispers. I stumble to the sink and splash cold water on my face. When I look up, my reflection in the window above the sink seems wrong. My features arranged incorrectly. My eyes too dark. You're not real, I tell the voice. You have a symptom, auditory hallucination brought on by stress and grief. If I'm not real, the voice asks, sounding amused, then who killed Eleanor? My legs give out. I sink to the floor, head in my hands. I didn't kill her. She fell, hit her head. An accident during our fight. Is that what happened? The voice is no longer coming from the knife, but from everywhere. The walls, the floor, inside my own head. Then where is she now, Thomas? Stop it! I shout, pressing my hands over my ears. Get out of my head. I'm not in your head. I'm in the blade. I've always been in the blade. Your father knew. His father knew. The knowledge got lost with you. The soft one, the one who ran from blood. A memory surfaces. Myself at 14, fleeing the butcher shop in tears after my first slaughter day. Father's disgust. The village boy's mockery. My decision to become a chef instead, still working with knives, but creating rather than destroying. Or so I thought. What do you want from me? I whisper. The voice, when it answers, is almost gentle. What I've always wanted. What your father gave me. What your grandfather gave me. A taste. A sacrifice. An icy fear grips me as understanding dawns. Eleanor wasn't enough, I say. The knife on the cutting board gleams in the sunlight, beautiful and terrible. Eleanor was just the beginning, it agrees. Now we need to prepare for who comes looking for her. As if summoned by the thought, there's a knock at the door. The knocking continues as I freeze in place, heart threatening to burst through my ribcage. Through the kitchen window, I catch sight of a battered blue pickup, Ian's delivery truck from the village store. Just a minute. I call, frantically straightening my clothes and running a hand through my unwashed hair. At the door, Ian greets me with his usual gap-toothed smile, though it falters as he takes in my appearance. Christ, Thomas, you look like hell itself. I force a chuckle. Bad bout of flu? Nothing serious. Brought your usual order. He hefts a box of groceries. Plus, those special herbs Eleanor wanted for her garden, she avowed. My mouth goes dry. Visiting her sister in Edinburgh. Been gone a few days. The lie tastes sour, but Ian seems to accept it, nodding as he hands over the box. Well, tell her I said hello when she called. Strange time of year for planting, though. After he leaves, I set the box on the counter and examine its contents. Among the usual supplies, flour, coffee, tinned vegetables, is a small packet labeled Angel's Trumpet, handle with care. Eleanor's garden. I haven't been out there since that night. The greenhouse stands 50 yards from the cottage, a glass sanctuary Eleanor built when we first moved here 5 years ago. Her private domain. I'd never paid much attention to what she grew, assuming it was all herbs for cooking and flowers for the house. Now, with dread pooling in my stomach, I pull on my boots and make my way across the muddy yard. The late morning fog clings to the ground, transforming the familiar landscape into something dreamlike and threatening. The greenhouse door creaks as I push it open. Immediately, I'm hit by a wall of humid air heavy with earthy organic scents, some pleasant, others distinctly not. What were you growing out here, Eleanor? I whisper. The central workbench is organized with the precision that characterizes everything my wife did. Plant markers, carefully labeled in her neat handwriting, tools cleaned and hanging in their designated spots, a leather-bound journal lying open. I approach cautiously, as if the plants might somehow sense my intrusion. Most of all, I recognize thyme, the lavender Eleanor loved to put in our bedroom. But others are strange to me, plants with thorny stems and oddly shaped leaves. The journal calls me. I pick it up, recognizing Eleanor's handwriting immediately. The open page dated 3 weeks ago. The symptoms are worsening. He talks to himself constantly now, especially in the kitchen. I've seen him holding conversations with the knife, that awful family heirloom I've always hated. Last night he called me by his mother's name and didn't remember doing so when I mentioned it this morning. The belladonna tincture isn't strong enough. Mrs. McGregor from the village suggested the Angel's Trumpet might help expel whatever's taken hold of him. Old Highland remedy for spiritual possession, she said. Worth trying before involving doctors who wouldn't understand. I love my husband, but I'm becoming afraid of who or what he's turning into. My hands tremble so violently that I nearly drop the journal. I flip back through earlier entries, scanning quickly. Found old cutting scars on his palms, perfectly placed according to the ritual diagrams in that book I found hidden in the attic. Sleepwalking again, always ending up in the kitchen with that knife. Mentioned someone called the Carver during a nightmare. Baila rhesus in my throat. I had no idea Eleanor suspected anything. No idea she'd been trying to... what? Cure me? Exorcise me? Poison me? With newfound urgency, I examine the plants more carefully. Belladonna, foxglove, hemlock, dodus, mandrake. A garden of poisons disguised as an herbalist's collection. She was trying to kill me, I whisper, the realization settling like ice in my veins. She was trying to kill us, corrects the familiar whisper, though the knife is back in the kitchen. She knew what lived in the blade, what lives in you now. I stagger back, knocking over a terracotta pot that shatters on the greenhouse floor. A strange root system is exposed, something that looks disturbingly like a tiny, gnarled human body. Mandrake, Chog-Til, the screaming root from Folklore. In the distance, I hear the cottage door slam shut, though I'm certain I closed it behind me. A trick of the wind, perhaps, or something else. My gaze returns to Eleanor's journal, to an entry from the day before she died. I've prepared the final tincture, strong enough to kill the parasitic entity, though it may leave T incredibly ill for days. I have no choice. Whatever has taken residence in him is growing stronger. Last night I caught him standing over our bed with the knife, just staring down at me. When I spoke, he seemed awake from a trance, with no memory of how he got there. If this doesn't work, I've left a letter with Reverend Morris explaining everything. God forgive me if I'm wrong, but I believe my husband is no longer fully himself. The entity known locally as the Carver has been taking Blackwood men for generations. I won't let it take mine. The greenhouse suddenly feels suffocating. I drop the journal and stumble outside, gulping the cool Scottish air. Had Eleanor really been trying to save me? Or was she delusional, seeing demons where there were only the ordinary shadows of a troubled mind? And if she was right, if something does live in the blade in me, then her death wasn't an accident during our fight. It was self-defense by whatever I'm becoming. As I walk back toward the cottage, the fog parts momentarily, revealing a freshly disturbed patch of earth near the garden shed that I don't remember digging. I change direction, moving toward it as if pulled by an invisible thread. "Don't," whispers the voice that might be the knife. Might be my own corrupted thoughts. Some things are better left buried. But I can't stop myself. I have to know. The disturbed earth calls to me, but as I take another step toward it, a searing pain lances through my skull. I drop to my knees, vision swimming with black spots. When it clears, I'm no longer in my yard, but in my father's butcher shop 25 years ago. The memory rises with such vivid force that I can smell the raw meat, the sawdust scattered on the floor to soak up blood, the pine disinfectant father used at closing time. "Precision, Thomas," he says, guiding my 12-year-old hands as I hold the knife. The same knife, always the same knife. Respect what gives its life to feed. Make the cut clean. The lamb on the butcher block stares up with dead eyes. Not yet butchered, just slaughtered. Its throat a red smile beneath white wool. My first solo preparation. "I can't," I whisper, tears blurring my vision. Father's hand tightens painfully on my shoulder. Blackwoods have been doing this for centuries. The knife must taste blood to stay in the family. That's the bargain. "What bargain?" I ask, but he ignores the question. "Cut along this line," he instructs, tracing a path with his finger from sternum to belly. One smooth motion. My hand trembles. The knife feels alive in my grip, eager in a way inanimate objects shouldn't be. "The Carver is hungry today," Father murmurs, almost to himself. "Feed it properly and it feeds you in return. Strength, purpose." The blade sinks into flesh with shocking ease. No resistance at all, like cutting water. A perfect line opens up, releasing the copper smell of fresh blood. Instead of disgust, I feel a surge of pleasure. "Power?" Father smiles, the only genuine smile I can remember him giving me. "Good boy. You feel it now, don't you? The connection." I did feel it, a humming energy flowing from the knife into my arm, spreading warmth through my chest. For once, Father wasn't disappointed in me. For once, I was a proper Blackwood. Later that night, I heard my parents arguing through the thin walls of our cottage. "He's too young," Mother's voice, tight with fear. "Duncan, you promised we'd wait until he was 16 like you were." "The Carver doesn't care about arbitrary human ages," Father replied. "It chose him today. You saw how clean the cut was. no hesitation. That wasn't the boy's skill, that was it, guiding him. And when it wants more than animal blood, when it wants what it took from your father, a slap echoed through the house. Then Father's voice, dangerous and low, never speak of that. What happened to Dad was different. He neglected the rituals, got sloppy. I've taught Thomas properly. The memory shifts, fragments. I'm 14 now, hiding behind the shop as Father prepares a special order for the village's wealthiest family. I watch through the window as he uses the knife with practiced skill, breaking down a deer carcass for a holiday feast. But something's wrong. Father's movements become jerky, unnatural. He pauses, knife hovering over the meat, head cocked as if listening to something I can't hear. Slowly, he turns the blade toward his own arm, rolls up his sleeve, places the edge against his skin. I burst into the shop shouting his name. Startled, he drops the knife. It clatters to the floor, and for a split second, I swear I see something dark move across its surface. "Get out!" he roars, face contorted. But I've seen what he tried to hide. Dozens of thin scars crisscrossing his forearms. Ritual cuts, self-inflicted. The memory shifts again. I'm 17. Mother has been dead for 2 years. Food poisoning, they said, though I've always wondered. Father has withdrawn further into himself, spending hours alone in the shop long after closing time. I find him there one night, surrounded by strange symbols drawn in what looks like blood on the floor. The knife stands upright in the center of the arrangement, somehow balancing on its tip. "What are you doing?" I ask from the doorway. Father startles violently. The knife falls. The moment it touches the floor, all the lights in the shop blow out at once. "It's your fault," Father hisses in the darkness, watching me, breaking my concentration. Now it's angry. I back away, frightened by his tone. "Dad, you need help. No one can help with this. It's our burden, our gift." He retrieves the knife, clutching it like a drowning man might grab a rope. The Carver has been with the Blackwoods for generations. It gives us skill beyond ordinary men. In return, it needs small tribute. "This isn't normal," I insist. "This isn't healthy." His laugh is hollow. "Normal? The normal men in this village break their backs farming rocky soil or slowly kill themselves in the mines. Blackwoods prosper. We always have. Because of what? A demon and a knife? Not a demon. Older. Something that was here before the Christians brought their heaven and hell. Something that understands the fundamental truth. To create, something must be destroyed. To live, something must die. I left for culinary school 3 months later, vowing never to return. To break whatever sick family tradition had corrupted my father's mind. Yet after his death, I came back. Sold the butcher shop but kept the knife. Told myself it was sentiment. Heritage. The memory dissolves, and I find myself back in my yard, kneeling before the disturbed earth. My hands are filthy. I've been clawing at the soil without realizing it. And something is partially uncovered. Something wrapped in a familiar blue fabric. Eleanor's favorite dress. The knowledge crashes over me like ice water. Not a memory this time, but the terrible present. What I did. What the thing inside me, inside the knife, made me do. "You didn't bury her deep enough," whispers the voice. Amateur mistake. The butcher's son should know better. I scramble backward, mud caking my clothes. The fog is thickened around me, isolating me in a bubble of horror. "I have to call the police," I gasp. "And tell them what? That a possessed knife made you kill your wife? That'll go over well." "This isn't real. None of this is real." The voice chuckles, a sound like bones breaking. "Keep telling yourself that. Meanwhile, you should rebury her. Deeper this time. Or better yet." An image flashes in my mind. Eleanor's body, dismembered, scattered across the moor. The ultimate vanishing. No, I moan, pressing mud-covered hands to my face. I won't. You already have, the voice whispers. What's one more sin on a damn soul? I look down at my hands, suddenly realizing they're not covered in mud at all. They're covered in blood. Fresh blood. The village store feels unnaturally bright after days spent in my dim cottage. Fluorescent lights hum overhead, casting harsh shadows across shelves of everyday items that now seem alien and threatening. I'm hyper-aware of my appearance. Unwashed hair hastily combed, clothes rumpled despite my attempts to look presentable. The blood-stained ones are buried now, deep beneath the cottage floorboards. Ian looks up from the register as the bell announces my entrance. His usual smile falters. Thomas, wasn't expecting you today. Thought you were under the weather. I force my face into what I hope is a normal expression. Feeling better. Needed to get out of the house. And Eleanor? Still in Edinburgh? The lie comes easier this time. Yes. Extended her stay another week. Her sister's going through some things. Ian nods, but something in his eyes makes my skin crawl. Doubt, perhaps. Or suspicion. Funny thing, he says casually, rearranging items behind the counter. Mrs. McGregor said she saw Eleanor's car at the train station car park. Been there almost a week now. Thought maybe you dropped her off, but then he gestures at my muddied boots. My mouth goes dry. Walking. Doctor's orders. Good for recovery. Right. Ian drums his fingers on the counter. And the, special herbs she ordered? For that garden of hers? Very helpful, I manage. She'll be pleased when she gets back. Will she? Ian's voice has hardened slightly. Only Mrs. McGregor mentioned Eleanor seemed frightened last time she came in. Said something about needing help with a family problem. The store suddenly feels too small, the walls pressing inward. My fingers itch for the knife, safely stored in my jacket pocket. Would Ian's blood look different from Eleanor's, spreading across the floor? Would it satisfy the Carver's hunger? The thought shocks me back to lucidity. Eleanor's been stressed, I say carefully. My health issues, you know. Makes her worry. Ian studies me for a long moment, then seems to come to a decision. Right, well, what can I get you today? Just some cleaning supplies, strong ones. If this request raises further suspicions, Ian doesn't show it. He points me toward an aisle, then returns to sorting mail behind the counter. As I scan bottles of bleach and ammonia, trying to remember what TV shows recommend for removing bloodstains, I sense someone behind me. Turning, I find myself face to face with Reverend Morris, the village's elderly pastor. Thomas, he says warmly. Good to see you up and about. We've missed you and Eleanor at Sunday service. Something in his kindly gaze makes my chest tighten painfully. The Reverend has known me since childhood, performed our wedding ceremony 5 years ago. What would he think if he knew what I've done? What I'm becoming? Been under the weather, I mutter. So I heard. He places a gentle hand on my arm. And Eleanor? How is she faring with your illness? Before I can repeat my Edinburgh lie, the Reverend continues. She came to see me, you know, last week. Seemed troubled. Ice forms in my veins. What did she say? That's between her and God, he replies. But his eyes hold something, concern. Warning? But I had told her what I've always believed. That darkness can't survive when brought into the light. That secrets fester like wounds. I manage a non-committal noise, painfully aware of Ian watching our interaction from across the store. If you need to talk, son, the Reverend adds quietly, my door is always open. To both of you. As he walks away, I notice something drop from his pocket. A small envelope. I pick it up, intending to return it when Eleanor's handwriting on the front stops me cold. To be opened in the event of my disappearance or death. Without thinking, I slipped the envelope into my jacket next to the knife that seems to pulse with anticipation. At the counter, Ian rings up my purchases with maddening slowness. "Doing some deep cleaning?" he asks, eyeing the industrial strength product. "Spring cleaning," I reply, though it's autumn. Eleanor's very particular. Bet she is. Ian bags my items. "By the way, Chief Constable Donovan was asking after you both yesterday. Said Eleanor hadn't shown up for their monthly book club meeting. Unusual," he said. The police. Already asking questions. Must have slipped her mind with everything going on with her sister, I say, voice steadier than I feel. "I'll be sure to have her call when she gets back." "You do that." Ian hands me my change, his fingers briefly touching mine. He pulls back quickly as if burned. "Take care of yourself, Thomas, and tell Eleanor." He pauses meaningfully. "Tell her we're all thinking of her." The walk home stretches endlessly through thickening fog. With each step, panic builds in my chest. They know, or suspect. The entire village, watching, whispering. They've always whispered about the Blackwoods, comes the now familiar voice from my pocket. Different, strange, touched. "Shut up!" I hiss, quickening my pace. They fear what they don't understand. Your father knew this. Kept to himself. Kept the secret safe. And it destroyed him. The voice chuckles. Did it? Or did it make him powerful? Respected? No one questioned Duncan Blackwood. Because they were afraid of him. Is that so terrible? To be feared rather than pitied? I stumble on the uneven path, my purchases clattering in their bag. The cottage looms ahead through the mist, windows dark and accusing. They're closing in, the voice continues. The shopkeeper, the reverend, soon the police. What will you tell them when they ask where she is? My hand closes around the knife in my pocket. The metal is warm, alive. I don't know. I whisper. Yes, you do, it replies. You'll tell them nothing, because they can't know what we've done, what we'll continue to do. As I approach the cottage, movement catches my eye, a figure at my door. My heart nearly stops until I recognize Mrs. McGregor, our elderly neighbor from half a mile down the road. She turns at the sound of my approach, her weathered face creasing with what might be relief. Thomas, there you are. I've been knocking. Mrs. McGregor, what brings you here? I keep my distance, acutely aware of the cleaning supplies in one hand, the knife in my pocket, and Eleanor's letter burning against my chest. Brought some of my bramble jam for Eleanor. She holds up a small jar. Special recipe. Good for what ails the spirit, I always say. The irony isn't lost on me. According to Eleanor's journal, it was Mrs. McGregor who supplied her with information about Highland folk remedies. About possession. She's away, I say mechanically, visiting her sister. Mrs. McGregor's eyes, sharp despite her age, narrow slightly. Is she now? How interesting. I could have sworn I saw her in the greenhouse just yesterday. My blood freezes. Must have been mistaken. Perhaps she concedes, though her tone suggests otherwise. My eyes aren't what they used to be. Still, I'd swear on my husband's grave it was her blue dress I saw through the glass. The same blue dress now covering her partial grave behind the cottage. Would you like me to check if she's returned? Mrs. McGregor asks, taking a step toward the door. No, I say too forcefully. Then softer. No need to trouble yourself. I've just come from town. The cottage is empty. She studies me with ancient eyes that seem to see straight through my flimsy lies. The fog plays tricks, they say. Makes us see things that aren't there, or not see things that are. Her gaze drops to my pocket where my hand still grips the knife. Careful with that, she says softly. Old things have old hungers. Before I can respond, she places the jam jar on the doorstep and turns to leave. Tell Eleanor I came by, won't you? When she returns from her sister's? I watch her disappear into the mist, my entire body trembling. How much does she know? How much does the entire village know about the Blackwood legacy? About the Carver? Inside the cottage, I tear open Eleanor's letter with shaking hands, desperate for answers. What I find inside changes everything. The envelope contains not a letter but a small key. Old brass, tarnished with age, with an ornate handle shaped like a tree. I recognized immediately the key to my father's old strongbox, which I'd brought with me from the butcher's shop, but never opened. Why would Eleanor have this? The strongbox sits in our attic, buried under Christmas decorations and forgotten memorabilia. I climbed the narrow stairs, industrial cleaner forgotten downstairs, knife still in my pocket. The attic air is thick with dust and secrets. The box is exactly where I left it 5 years ago when we moved in. Heavy iron with rusted hinges, it looks more like a relic than a storage container. My hands tremble as I fit the key into the lock. It turns with surprising ease, as if recently oiled. Inside, the familiar knife case rests on top, empty now since the blade is in my pocket. Beneath it lies a leather-bound journal, far older than Eleanor's greenhouse records. The cover is cracked and stained, the pages yellowed with age. My father's handwriting greets me on the first page, dated 30 years ago. The dreams have started, just as my father described, just as his father wrote about. The knife speaks to me now, not just in dreams but in waking hours. I've made the first offering, my blood freely given. It will want more soon. I flip through pages randomly, my horror growing with each passage. November 3rd, 1992. Margaret asked about the cuts on my arms today. I told her it was an accident at the shop. She knows I'm lying. The Carver is growing impatient. Animal blood sustains it, but doesn't satisfy. December 15th, 1992. Thomas was born today. I held him and felt it stir inside me. Hunger, but also possibility. Will he be stronger than I am? Will he resist when his time comes? June 8, 1998. Almost lost control today. The knife wanted the Hannigan boy who came to the shop. Innocent blood. I cut myself instead deep across the thigh. The pain brought me back. For now. But it's the final entries that freeze my blood. September 12th, 24. Knows everything now. Says she's going to take Thomas away. Can't allow that. The Carver has been with the Blackwoods for generations. Breaking the chain would bring destruction on us all. September 15th, 2004. It's done. The Carver took what it needed. Told Thomas it was food poisoning. You'll never know. Better this way. The sacrifice has bought me time. Years, perhaps. My mother didn't die of food poisoning. My father, under the influence of whatever entity lives in that knife, killed her. Beneath my father's journal lies another, older still. My grandfather's handwriting documenting the same descent into madness. The same struggles against an ancient hunger, the same inevitable surrender. And below that, a folder containing yellowed newspaper clippings. Butcher's wife found dead in home. September 1961. Local man confesses to wife's murder. October 1932. Blackwood tragedy. Butcher takes own life after family slaughter. December 1899. Generation after generation of Blackwood men, all following the same pattern. All ending in blood and death. At the very bottom of the box rests a much older document. A deed of sale from 1788, transferring ownership of one knife of finest steel from a Highland blacksmith to my ancestor, Alasdair Blackwood. The document bears a strange symbol where a signature should be, something like a tree with roots formed of human figures. And finally, nestled in red velvet, a small silver pendant shaped like a knife. When I touch it, it burns cold against my skin. An inscription on the back reads, "The sacrifice sustains." As I sit surrounded by my horrifying family legacy, something falls from between the pages of my father's journal. A note in Eleanor's handwriting. Thomas, if you're reading this, I've either succeeded in freeing you or failed completely. The pendant is protection. Wear it always. The knife must be destroyed, not just hidden. Reverend Morris knows how. The visions you've been having aren't mental illness, they're memories. Not yours, but its. Every Blackwood wife for generations has tried to break the cycle. Most have failed. I pray I won't. I love you, the real you beneath whatever has taken root. Eleanor. The pendant feels impossibly heavy in my palm. Protection against what lies in the knife. What now lives partly in me. Lies, whispers the voice from my pocket. She sought to weaken you, to break our bond. Our bond. I laugh bitterly. You've been killing Blackwood wives for centuries. Only when necessary. Only when they interfere, like your mother, like Eleanor. I slip the pendant over my head. Immediately the voice grows fainter, as if speaking from a great distance. Take it off, it hisses. You're mine, always have been. But for the first time since Eleanor's death, my head feels clearer. I can distinguish my thoughts from its influence. With newfound determination, I gather the journals and clippings, along with Eleanor's note. As I move to close the box, I notice something scratched into the bottom. A set of coordinates. A location somewhere in the Highlands, if I'm not mistaken. Far from any road or village. The place where it all began. Or where it can finally end. As I descend from the attic, pendant cold against my chest and journals clutched to my side, I hear a car engine outside. Through the window, I see a police cruiser pulling up to my cottage. Chief Constable Donovan has come calling, and the knife is screaming for his blood. Thomas Blackwood? Chief Donovan calls through the door after 3 sharp knocks. Just need a word, if you don't mind. I shove the journals under the sofa cushions and try to steady my breathing. The pendant feels like ice against my skin, but it's keeping the knife's whispers at bay. Now just a faint, angry buzzing in the back of my mind. Coming! I call, checking my reflection in the hallway mirror. A haggard stranger stares back. Donovan's expression is carefully neutral when I open the door, but his eyes catalog everything. My disheveled appearance, the cleaning supplies visible on the kitchen counter, the mud still caked on my boots by the door. Morning, Thomas. Mind if I come in? Bit nippy out here. Social convention leaves me no choice but to step aside. Of course, sorry about the mess. Been ill. So I've heard. He enters, removing his hat but not his coat. A small but telling detail. I'm actually here about Eleanor. Missed our book club meeting. Not like her. She's in Edinburgh, visiting her sister. The lie comes automatically now, though each repetition feels more hollow. When did she leave? Tuesday, Dotante. Or was it Monday? The days have blurred. This past Tuesday? Yes. Interesting. Donovan removes a small notebook from his pocket. Because her sister called the station yesterday. Quite concerned. Says she hasn't heard from Eleanor in weeks. My mouth goes dry. Must be some confusion. Different sister, perhaps. Eleanor only has the one sister, Thomas. His voice remains conversational, but his eyes harden. And her car is still at the train station. Has been for days, according to Mrs. McGregor. She took the bus. Car's been having trouble. Each lie feels more transparent than the last. Donovan doesn't bother writing any of this down. Thomas, he says gently, is there something you want to tell me about Eleanor? The knife in my pocket pulses with eagerness. One quick movement, that's all it would take. The policeman's neck exposed above his collar. The Carver's hunger momentarily sated, but the pendant burns colder, and the murderous impulse recedes like a wave pulling back from shore. She needed space, I say finally. We've been struggling, She said she was going to her sister's. If she didn't, I don't know where she is. Not entirely a lie. Part of me still hopes this is all a delusion, that Eleanor is alive somewhere that I didn't. Donovan studies me for a long moment. I see. When's the last time you actually spoke to her? Tuesday morning, before she left. And you haven't called to check on her, despite being ill enough to miss work at the restaurant? I shake my head, avoiding his gaze. Mind if I have a look around, since I'm here? Fear spikes through me. The partially uncovered grave behind the cottage. The blood-stained clothes beneath the floorboards. The journals now hidden in the sofa. Do you have a warrant? I ask, immediately regretting how suspicious it sounds. No, he admits. Just concerned about a missing woman, but I can get one if needed. The ancient pendant seems to pulse against my chest, lending me clarity. I need time. Time to understand what Eleanor discovered. Time to process my family's dark legacy. Time to find a way to end this. I'm sorry, I say, forcing emotion into my voice. It's been difficult. We fought before she left, said terrible things to each other. I've been trying to give her space, but now you've got me worried. Donovan's expression softened slightly. Marriages have rough patches, Thomas. Why don't you try calling her now? Might ease both our minds. I pull out my phone, hand shaking only slightly as I dial Eleanor's number. It goes straight to voicemail, as I knew it would. Eleanor, it's me. Please call when you get this. The police are here, worried about you. I'm worried too. I pause, surprised to find tears in my eyes. I love you. Come home. After I hang up, Donovan sighs. Right. I'll leave my card. If you hear from her, call immediately. And Thomas? He steps closer, voice dropping. If there's anything else you want to tell me, anything at all, best to do it now rather than later. After he leaves, I collapse onto the sofa, pulling out the journals with trembling hands. The pendant has given me temporary clarity, but for how long? And what happens when the Carver's influence grows stronger than this fragile protection? I return to Eleanor's note. The knife must be destroyed, not just hidden. Reverend Morris knows how. Of course. The frequent mentions of possession in the journals. Eleanor's visits to Mrs. McGregor for folklore remedies. Her final consultation with the Reverend. This isn't just a family curse or mental illness. It's something older. Something that might require spiritual intervention to defeat. With renewed purpose, I gather what I need. The journals, the pendant, and most dangerously, the knife itself, wrapped carefully in a dish towel. Its whispers grow more frantic as I prepare to leave, promising power, warning of betrayal. As I pass the kitchen, something catches my eye. The small jar of bramble jam Mrs. McGregor left. The label reads for cleansing in spidery handwriting. On impulse, I grab it before heading out the back door, avoiding the main road where Donovan might still be watching. The foggy moor provides cover as I make my way toward the village church. The ancient stone structure stands empty this afternoon, though candles flicker at the altar. I find Reverend Morris in his study, surrounded by books far older than the ones on display in the main church. He looks up as I enter, unsurprised. Thomas, I've been expecting you. Eleanor came to you, I say without preamble. About me, about this. I place the wrap knife on his desk. He doesn't touch it, merely gazes at the cloth-covered shape with profound sadness. She did. Poor woman was desperate to save you, to break the cycle. You know about the Carver? About my family? The village has always known, Thomas. Some things can't be hidden in small communities. Your grandfather, your father, now you. The darkness passes from father to son along with that cursed blade. Relief floods through me at not having to explain, at being believed. Eleanor found a way to fight it. This pendant merely slows the process, he interrupts gently. The influence grows stronger with each generation. The pendant might give you clarity for days, perhaps weeks, But eventually, the Carver will overcome its protection. Then how do I destroy it? Eleanor said you know how. Morris sighs heavily. There are methods, old ones. Not sanctioned by my church, you understand. Highland rituals that predate Christianity in these parts. I don't care what religion it comes from, I say desperately. I just want it gone, before I hurt anyone else. His eyes sharpen. Anyone else? Thomas, what have you done? I can't answer, but my expression must betray me. Eleanor, he breathes. Oh, my boy. Where is she? I didn't mean to, I whisper, tears streaming down my face. It was the Carver. In a rage. I couldn't control it. Morris doesn't call the police. Doesn't condemn me. Instead, he places a weathered hand on mine. Then we must act quickly. For Eleanor's soul, for yours, and for those the Carver would claim next. He rises, pulling ancient texts from his shelves. The ritual requires specific elements. Blood freely given. Your blood as the current vessel. The knife itself. And he hesitates. And what? A sacrifice. Something you truly love, surrendered willingly. I laugh bitterly. I've already lost everything I love. Not everything, he says mysteriously. The heart knows what it must give up. You'll understand when the time comes. For the next hour, Morris outlines the exorcism ritual, translated from texts that predate biblical writings in Scotland. The ceremony must take place at dawn, at a specific location in the Highlands, the same coordinates I found scratched in the strongbox. The birthplace of the Carver, Morris explains, where the blacksmith first bound the entity to the blade. Only there can the binding be broken. What is it? I ask. This Carver. What kind of entity are we dealing with? Something old. Something that feeds on the darkest parts of men's souls. A parasite that offers power in exchange for blood. Your ancestor made the original pact in 1788, seeking to rise above his station. Each generation since has paid the price. As he speaks, I feel the knife's whispers growing stronger, fighting against the pendant's protection, promising vengeance if I continue down this path. Morris notices my distress. It fights you even now. We must hurry. He hands me a list of ingredients for the ritual. Common herbs, certain minerals, and items specific to my situation. But one entry makes my blood run cold. Blood of the innocent sacrificed to be reconsecrated through proper ritual. Eleanor's blood, I whisper in horror. Morris nods grimly. The entity has already taken her life. The ritual uses that wrongful death as part of the binding, turning the Carver's strength against itself. I'll need to... I can't finish the sentence. A part of her, he confirms. Taken with reverence, with grief, with love. To undo what was done in hatred and rage. The concept sickens me. At what choice do I have? The alternative is to let the Carver continue its bloody legacy through me, and whatever future generations might come. There's one more thing, Morris adds, reaching into a drawer. He removes a small bottle of dark liquid. Mrs. McGregor's special recipe, stronger than what Eleanor managed to create. It will keep the Carver subdued until morning. The bramble jam. Not jam at all, but a potion of some kind. The whole village has been fighting this thing. For generations. Your family isn't the only one with long memories, Thomas. As I prepare to leave with my grim instructions, Morris places a hand on my shoulder. Whatever you did, it wasn't truly you. Remember that. But it was my hands, I reply, the weight of guilt almost crushing me. My knife, my rage. Possession doesn't absolve responsibility entirely, he agrees. But it offers a path to redemption. Stop this now, Thomas. End the cycle. For Eleanor, for yourself, for whatever children might have come from your union. Children, Dadon. A future now forever lost. Another crime to lay at the Carver's feet, at my own. As I step back into the foggy evening, the knife's whispers turn to screams, sensing its potential destruction. Despite the pendant, despite Morris's potion, its influence claws at my mind. Kill the priest. Destroy the texts. Preserve our bond. Tonight will be the true test of my strength and of whatever humanity remains within me. The cottage feels different when I return, emptier, as if even the ghosts have abandoned it. I move through familiar rooms like a stranger, gathering items from Morris's list. Salt, dite, rosemary dot, iron nails, a silver coin, my own hair and blood, and the final, terrible ingredient I must collect before dawn. The knife fights me every step, its voice alternating between threats and seduction. When promises of power fail, it turns to my deepest fears. They'll arrest you, execute you. Is that what you want? To die like a criminal? Destroy me, and you destroy yourself. We are bound now, Thomas. One entity. I take Mrs. McGregor's potion, a foul-tasting mixture that burns going down, and wait for it to take effect. Gradually, the voice recedes to a dull murmur, though I can still feel its hatred pulsing through the metal. Night falls across the moor. I should sleep before the journey to the ritual site, but rest is impossible. Instead, I find myself in the kitchen, my domain, the place where I've always found solace in creation. A final meal, I whisper to myself. A chef's farewell. I begin cooking instinctively, hands moving with practiced precision despite my exhausted state. The simple act of preparation centers me, connects me to who I was before Eleanor's death, before the knife's awakening, before the terrible family legacy revealed itself. Into a pot goes stock I'd made days earlier before everything fell apart. Vegetables from Eleanor's garden, the innocent ones, the ones meant for nurturing rather than harm. Herbs that remind me of our early days together when the future seemed bright and limitless. As I work, memories surface. Eleanor's laugh when I tried to teach her knife skills, her concentration as she plated dishes I'd prepared for dinner parties, the way she'd kiss me when a new recipe succeeded. Had she known even then what darkness lurked in our marriage? Had she sensed the Carver waiting to emerge? The cottage fills with savory aromas that momentarily mask the underlying smell of chemicals and decay. For brief intervals, I'm just a chef again, creating something beautiful from disparate elements. But reality intrudes with each step. The knife I use is a common kitchen blade, the Carver's vessel secured in my pocket. Yet even this ordinary tool now feels sinister in my grip. Every cut reminds me of another, more terrible one. Time blurs as I cook. Midnight comes and goes. The stew simmers, flavors melding and deepening. When it's finally done, I ladle a portion into a bowl. A perfect circle of amber liquid, islands of vegetables, a garnish of fresh herbs. I set it on the table with ceremony alongside a piece of crusty bread I'd baked days ago. A condemned man's last meal, prepared by his own hands. But when I sit before this final creation, I find I cannot eat. Food turns to ash in my mouth, choked by grief and guilt. Instead, I take the bowl outside. The night is clear now, fog finally lifted to reveal a canopy of highland stars. I walk to the disturbed earth behind the cottage, where a partial grave holds what remains of my marriage, my love, my normal life. I'm sorry, I whisper, placing the bowl at the edge of the turned soil. For everything. As I kneel there, the pendant grows warm against my chest. A soft wind stirs the heather, bringing with it a scent I instantly recognize. Eleanor's lavender perfume. I'm going to end this. I promise the night air. Whatever it takes. The hardest part comes next. Reverend Morris's instructions were clear. I need a part of Eleanor for the ritual. Something physical to represent the innocent bloodshed. With shaking hands and a heart heavy as stone, I begin to dig. Time passes in a nightmarish blur as I uncover what I've tried to forget. The blue dress, now soil-stained. Beneath it, what's left of the woman I love. I can't bring myself to describe what follows. The removal of a small token, a lock of hair still smelling faintly of her shampoo. A respectful reburial, deeper this time, with words of apology and love whispered into the cold ground. By the time I finish, dawn approaches. I must leave soon to reach the ritual site by sunrise. Inside, I gather the prepared ingredients in a small leather pouch. The knife, wrapped in silk to mute its increasingly desperate whispers. A map to the coordinates. And one final item, a photograph of Eleanor and me on our wedding day, when the future still held promise. As I prepare to leave, a knock at the door freezes me in place. Chief Donovan stands on my doorstep, expression grim. Behind him, 2 officers wait beside patrol cars. "Thomas Blackwood," he says formally. "I'm afraid I need you to come with me. We have some questions about Eleanor's whereabouts." The knife pulses in my pocket. Kill them. Kill them all. 3 more sacrifices to feed our hunger. The pendant burns against my skin, fighting to keep me sane. Mrs. McGregor's potion wages war in my blood against the Carver's influence. "I was just leaving," I say, voice surprisingly calm. "It's important." "I'm sure it is," Donovan replies, not unkindly. "But this can't wait. They'll lock you away. The ritual will never happen. I'll find another Blackwood, another vessel. Perhaps that young cousin of yours in Glasgow. The threat against my family, against innocence, clarifies my purpose. I cannot allow this cycle to continue. 5 minutes, I plead. Let me get my coat. Use the bathroom." Donovan hesitates, then nods. 5 minutes, but I'm coming inside. As he follows me in, I frantically try to formulate a plan. The ritual site is miles away. Dawn approaches. Without completing the ceremony, the Carver will never be destroyed. In the bathroom, I stare at my reflection. A haunted man, guilt written across every feature. The pendant gleams against my chest, a small silver defense against ancient evil. An idea forms, desperate, dangerous, but possibly my only choice. I exit the bathroom to find Donovan examining the kitchen, his trained eye noting the excessive cleaning, the half-pack by the door. "Ready?" he asks, though it's clear he expects resistance. "Almost," I reply. "Just need to take my medication." I move to the kitchen, feeling his watchful gaze. With practiced chef's movements, I reach for a glass and fill it with water. Then casually, I pick up Mrs. McGregor's jam jar. "Traditional Scottish remedy," I explain, opening it. "For my nerves." Before he can object, I consume a spoonful, far more than Morris instructed. The effect is immediate and intense. My vision swims, my knees buckle. "Thomas?" Donovan rushes forward as I collapse. The world spins around me as the potion's power surges through my system. Designed to subdue the Carver, in this concentration it overwhelms my entire consciousness. The last thing I hear before darkness claims me is the Carver's howl of rage, and Donovan calling frantically for an ambulance. My final thought: if I can't complete the ritual, perhaps death will end the cycle just as effectively. But the Carver isn't finished with me yet. Beep tight, beep tight, beep tight. The rhythmic sound penetrates the darkness first. Then comes sensation. Roof sheets, antiseptic smell, the pinch of an IV in my arm. I open my eyes to harsh fluorescent lighting and white ceiling tiles. A hospital room. I'm alive then. "Welcome back," says a familiar voice. Reverend Morris sits beside my bed, looking more haggard than when I last saw him. Behind him stands Chief Donovan, arms crossed, expression unreadable. "How long?" My voice emerges as a rasp. "Thought it." 3 days, Morris answers. Whatever was in that jam nearly stopped your heart. Memory rushes back. The failed attempt to reach the ritual site. The desperate consumption of Mrs. McGregor's potion. The approaching dawn that should have seen the Carver destroyed. It's too late, I whisper. Morris leans forward, voice low enough that Donovan can't hear. Not necessarily. The entity is weakened by what you consumed. We still have a chance, but we must act quickly. I become aware that my left wrist is handcuffed to the bed rail. Donovan steps forward. Thomas Blackwood, once you're medically cleared, you'll be formally arrested in connection with the disappearance of Eleanor Blackwood. The pendant is gone from my neck. Without its protection, I wait for the Carver's voice to return, for the murderous impulses to surge. Nothing comes, just blessed silence in my own mind. Where is it? I ask Morris urgently. The knife. Safe, he assures me. In consecrated ground, temporarily neutralized. Donovan clears his throat. The Reverend has explained your situation to me. Under normal circumstances, I'd dismiss it as the ravings of a guilty man looking for an excuse. But I prompt, hearing the hesitation in his voice. But I've lived in this village my entire life. My grandfather was constable during your grandfather's time. There are police records that never became official. Incidents with your family that defy rational explanation. Hope flickers weakly. You believe it? Let's say I'm keeping an open mind. Donovan's expression remains stern. Doesn't change what you did to Eleanor. No, I agree, grief washing over me anew. Nothing changes that. Morris stands. There's a way forward, Thomas. A chance for redemption, if not forgiveness. Chief Donovan has agreed to escort you to the ritual site, under heavy guard, of course. One attempt to finish what you started. I stare at them in disbelief. Why would you risk that? Because if even half of what Morris believes is true, Donovan replies grimly, then this goes beyond one murder. This is about protecting others. When? I ask. Tonight. Dawn tomorrow. The doctors say you're stable enough to travel, though you'll remain under guard and restrained. As they leave to make arrangements, I'm left alone with thoughts finally clear of the Carver's influence. Without its voice, the full weight of what I've done crashes over me. The violence against Eleanor, the desperate cover-up, the lives I've destroyed. Would completing the ritual actually offer redemption? Or merely end a curse that should have died generations ago? Does it matter if it prevents further bloodshed? Night falls as I'm discharged into police custody. My wrists are cuffed, my ankles shackled. Donovan and 4 officers escort me to a police van, while Morris follows in his own car. The knife, wrapped in blessed cloth and sealed in a wooden box, sits in Donovan's secure evidence bag. We drive through darkened countryside toward coordinates I've never visited but somehow recognize in my bones. The birthplace of my family's curse. The forge where the Carver was first bound to metal. Why did you help me? I ask Donovan as we bump along rural roads. He's silent for a long moment. My grandmother told stories about your family. About the darkness that followed the Blackwoods. She was a friend of your grandmother's before she died suddenly. Accident, they called it. Another victim I never knew about. How many deaths lie at the Carver's feet? How many Blackwood men became murderers under its influence? The van stops at the edge of a clearing. Ancient standing stones form a rough circle, their surfaces carved with symbols older than written history. At the center stands a weathered stone table, an altar, perhaps, or a primitive forge. As I'm led toward it, Morris begins preparations. Salt cast in a circle, candles at the cardinal points. Eleanor's lock of hair placed reverently on the altar stone. The officers watch with expressions ranging from skepticism to unease. Armed men stand guard, ready if this is some elaborate escape attempt. It's not. I have nowhere to run, no life to return to. Only a curse to end. Dawn approaches. Morris removes the knife from its container, careful not to touch the blade. Even wrapped in consecrated cloth, it radiates malevolence. It's awakening, he warns. The sun's approach weakens the barriers. He's right. I can feel it stirring in my mind again. Faint whispers returning, promises of power if I'll only take the knife and turn it against my captors. Morris hands me a small silver cup. Your blood, freely given. With shaking hands, I accept a ritualistic cut across my palm, allowing the blood to fill the cup. Next comes Eleanor's hair, placed inside the crimson pool. The innocent, reconsecrated through grief and love. Morris intones. The eastern sky lightens. Time runs short. Finally, the knife itself is placed upon the altar, its blade gleaming in the pre-dawn light. Thomas Blackwood, Morris speaks formally now. Do you renounce the pact made by your ancestor? Do you surrender the power offered by the Carver? Do you accept the sacrifice required to break this bond? I do, I answer, the words burning in my throat. Then offer what you truly love, your final sacrifice. I hesitate, confused. I've already lost everything. Not everything, Morris says softly. The ritual requires your greatest love. For your father, it was your mother. For his father, his wife. The cycle continues because each Blackwood man sacrifices his love rather than himself. Understanding dawns, cold and clear as the approaching morning. My life, I whisper. That's the sacrifice. Morris nods sadly. To truly break the cycle, a Blackwood must choose to end it with his own blood, not another's. Your father couldn't do it, nor his father before him. The knife on the altar seems to vibrate with rage as the Carver realizes the truth. Its whispers turn to screams in my mind. Betrayer! Oathbreaker! I made your family powerful. You made us murderers, I reply aloud. No more. I look to Chief Donovan. You knew this was the end? He meets my gaze unflinchingly. Morris explained the options. This or a lifetime in prison, always a danger to others. We agree to let you choose. Choice. After days of being controlled, of fighting against an entity that used my hands for violence, I finally have a true choice. Release the restraints, I tell Donovan. I need to do this freely. After a moment's hesitation, he unlocks the cuffs. His officers tense, weapons ready. They needn't worry. I have no intention of running. I take the knife in my hand, feeling the Carver's essence flowing into me one last time. Rage, hunger, the terrible desire to cut and destroy. For Eleanor, I whisper. For all of them. The first ray of sunlight breaks over the eastern horizon as I turn the blade toward myself. The Carver's scream echoes inside my skull as I plunge the knife into my own heart. Pain blossoms bright and clarifying. I fall to my knees beside the altar, blood flowing freely onto the ancient stone. Around me, chaos erupts, officers rushing forward, Morris shouting instructions, Donovan barking orders. But within me comes a profound silence as the Carver's presence tears away like a scab from a wound. I feel it dying as I die, our connection severed by my willing sacrifice. As darkness closes in, I see the knife on the altar beside me, its blade cracking down the center, black smoke seeping from the fracture. My last thought is of Eleanor, not as I last saw her, but as she was on our wedding day. Smiling, hopeful, alive. I'm sorry, I whisper to her memory. It's over now. Whether anyone hears my final words, I'll never know. The darkness takes me completely, and Carver's centuries-long hunger finally ends. 1 year later, Reverend Morris stands before a small gathering in the village cemetery. A simple headstone marks a fresh grave. Thomas Blackwood, 1982 to 2025. He broke the chain. Beside it, a second stone reads, Eleanor Blackwood, 1985-2025. She showed the way. Mrs. McGregor places wildflowers on both graves. Chief Donovan stands respectfully at a distance. His report on the case officially closed. Death by suicide while temporarily insane. Only those gathered know the truth, that Thomas Blackwood's final act was one of courage, not madness. That a darkness that had haunted the Highlands for centuries died with him at dawn. The Blackwood knife, split down the middle, now lies in a box of consecrated silver, locked in the church vault. Sometimes late at night, Morris swears he hears something scratching weakly against the metal, a dying echo of an ancient hunger. But the chain is broken. No more Blackwood blood will feed the Carver's appetite. As the mourners disperse, a young woman lingers by the graves. No one in the village knows her. A distant cousin of Thomas's, perhaps, come to pay respects. She kneels, placing a hand on the freshly turned earth. "Thank you," she whispers, "for ending it before it found me." In her pocket, a letter from Eleanor, received too late to save her but just in time to warn the next potential vessel. As she walks away, the setting sun catches on something silver around her neck, a small protective pendant shaped like a knife. Just in case. After all, some hungers never truly die. They only wait.